We shall continue with what we left yesterday. Current issues in health and biotechnology. Then we will jump over to space, defense and alternative and miscellaneous technologies. We have gone through with this the dual mechanism for embryonic stem cells to maintain the pluripotency, which is developed as two different genes by the National Center for Cell Sciences in Pune, and it acts as those genes which can help to maintain division amongst the embryonic cell, or these are those cells, the nature of which, if it is turned off, then the cells remain undifferentiated. That means if differentiated cells, if we have marked these two genes and we are able to switch off these two genes in differentiated cells, then we will be able to continue with the pluripotent cells as a constant stem cell, right? So the dependence on the embryonic stem cells or dependence on those cells which are extracted from say umbilical cord, or its basic utility has not been seen, because those which are extracted from umbilical cord or those which are extracted from the blastic fluid also, they remain as a utilizable thing for the next generation. That is, my child or the next generation, it would be utilizable for them. But pluripotent cells, if they are taken up, or differentiated cells converted into undifferentiated pluripotent cells, and these two genes they turned off, so it will remain pluripotent, because stab cells, which are undifferentiated cells made out of differentiated cells, these type of the cells, they lose their basic nature of pluripotency within a span of time. So if we convert any cell, any differentiated cell, the one which has a specific function, and we convert it into any undifferentiated cell, which is the pluripotent stem cells, if we will keep these two genes in a switch off state, that means it can remain constantly into a pluripotent state. So now we can have any type of the cell converted back into stem cells and utilized for various types of the therapies, which can be organ regeneration therapies, organ treatment therapies for cancers also, development of the new organs also, for drug testing also, for metabolic activities also, understanding the complete metabolomics of different types of the cells also. That can be generated over here. That is the basic issue which is dealt with these two genes. So things that can arise out of it is, obviously, stem cell is something which has been discussed elaborately with the basics also, right? Stem cell, the nature of these stem cells, the utility of these stem cells, and this concept of switching off these two genes. Then esophagus, we have seen, human esophagus, they were able to develop this thing. This was in Cincinnati Children's Hospital. Then this concept of the three parent babies. Three parent babies, the basic concept, why it has been developed, or why this particular tool is developed, to cut down or to reduce the problems which are coming up with the mitochondrial inheritance. Mitochondria, the organ which is responsible for production of ATP in the cell or for the basic metabolism, has its own DNA. That's why the organ is semi-autonomous in nature. The DNA which is present in mitochondria always runs into inheritance from the mother side. That's why it exhibits maternal inheritance. That is, the females will bear the inheritance of all these different types of the genes which are present over mitochondrial DNA. Now, if the faulty genes persist in the lineage or in the inheritance, then it can be sorted with the 3-parent concept or 3-parent babies concept. In this, we take the nucleus of father plus the nucleus of mother plus the cell which is devoid nucleus of the 3rd parent. Must be a lady, can be a close relative of it, and we implant, we fuse the nucleus. So now the nucleus will have the genes coming from parent 1 plus parent 2 is inducted in the cell of this. So nucleus of 1 and 2 and mitochondria of the 3rd parent. That's how the embryo generated over here will have genes coming from 3 different parents. That's how the basic concept of mitoparents or 3-parent babies is being designed. Using this, we'd be able to cut down the faulty genes which are coming through maternal inheritance or because of mitochondrial inheritance and the problems associated to obesity or the basic change in metabolic rate or metabolic problems they can be sorted easily. That's why this design is created or this has been accepted as a therapy. This has been given a particular clearance in UK. The clearances are also to be seen with US FDA also. So later this particular tool would become one particular method using which we can plan for. This has also generated one debate of designer babies as well. Using this we'd be able to generate designer babies, or this is actually mixing genes from 3 different parent would mean bringing up more different types of the concepts in human genome based biotechnology that we can develop. So this can be the future of the we can say personalized medicine which can also be generated, right? So that has been taken into consideration, which is the 3-parent babies concept, now permitted in UK, not permitted in India right now, right? The ethics of it, or neither do we have a policy, neither do we have an initiation for this 3-parent babies concept, right? Next, 25, yes please. Two different terms. Silencing is something different. Silencing would require certain tools like microRNA, where we silence or where we cut down the basic expression of a faulty gene using small molecules of microRNA, which are 5 to 11 base pair RNAs, which can create a continuum binding with the RNA formed out of a gene. So that silences the expression which is being created, right? Gene switching is something different, where we intend to do 2 different things. It can be silencing also, it can be upstream upgradation of a gene expression also. So these could be 2 different things, silencing and switching. Come again. There is CRISPR also. CRISPR is just a DNA damage repair mechanism which is seen. C9, Cas9 that you are discussing about. There could be other tools also, which could be DNA correction tools also, based on DNA polymerase and other enzymes also. It can be other related tools also, apart from Cas9 as well. Right now we have Cas9, CRISPR or the gene editing tool. Apart from this, other tools can also be developed, which are theoretically can be possible. Next is the new sheep insemination technique. The sheep insemination technique has been developed by the Central Sheep and the Wool Research Institute of Malpura in Rajasthan. It is a mass insemination which takes near about 5 minutes to inseminate a particular sheep, which helps to directly inject the semen into the sheep. And this mass sheep insemination program is being seen in Malpura, and 40 sheep they were inseminated, because there is a particular problem with the maintenance of kettles like sheep, etc. And these kettles, futuristically if we understand, or the basic problems if we understand, and then there is a problem with the semination of these sheep, the natural semination. So artificial insemination is being driven, and mass insemination tool has been developed. So overall, three things are important. Done in Malpura, they would use one particular technique, which is laparoscopic technique, which would use a rigid fiber optic laparoscope that you can mark with your thing. A rigid fiber optic laparoscope, and then the frozen semen is inseminated in the sheep, right? Next one is the mass embryo transfer, which is taken up by the Department of Animal Husbandry, Drying and Fisheries in cooperation with 12 states. It has taken up a mass embryo transfer program in the indigenous breeds under the scheme National Mission for Bovine Reproductivity. The National Mission for Bovine Reproductivity, or also the Rashtriya Gokul Mission. The embryo transfer technique is to improve upon the traits and characters of a particular breed, which would incorporate somatic cell nuclear transfer also, which would also, which is the later state of it. The embryo transfer is specialized for improvement of breeding of the animals, right? Mass embryo transfer, transfer of an embryo from one type of the breed to another so as to improve upon the characteristics, specifically bovines like Sahiwal, Gir, Red Sindhi, Anglais, Deoni, and Vachur. These different cows, they can be marked. These are the wild varieties of the bovines which are present in India, or the cows which are present in India. This is targeted towards improvement of the characteristics, also to improve the number of the wild varieties or the wild breeds of the cows. Specifically, for this, the mass embryo technique transfer has been optimized. Next is the CRISPR technology. CRISPR, or the CRISPR-Cas9, which act as a DNA editing tool, which helps in modifying the transformed genome, or the we can say the damaged genome, or converting the bases which are present in DNA. Right. Cas9 act as an enzyme which can help to modify the bases. If there are incorrectly matched bases also, then this can also be modified, or a section of the DNA can be modified using Cas9 internally. That is the enzyme. Enzyme is Cas9, and the tool is CRISPR. And the overall process is gene editing. It can also be a DNA damage mechanism. Or rather DNA repair mechanism, not damage. Helps to improve the alterations of the DNA which can be developed, right? Gene drive, DRIVE. We'll come up to that. We'll look up to that. Then, yes, any other thing?
How do they know that part of ATCG was damaged?
It is just a constant running pattern. See, these enzymes, basically, there is a DNA correction mechanism, which is through DNA polymerase. DNA polymerase is one of the major enzymes which is responsible for, we can say, in vivo replication of the DNA. it is a DNA replication enzyme also, it is a DNA correction enzyme also. If there are certain mismatching, it can be generated or it can be checked using DNA polymerase. A complete or a holistic mechanism of it is being described as well, post-replication tools as well, right? Now these enzymes, they help to look up to the matching over here, right? There must be a proper design that always with A there must be T, always with G there must be C. This matching is to be corrected. If there are certain faults, those can be corrected. Apart from this, there are other tools as well, where we have the DNA sequencing tool. Using the DNA sequencing tool, we can understand the basic nature of a gene. What is the nature or sequence of a gene? And what are the changes that we are looking on to the subject gene that we are talking about? If there is a nature, if there is change, if there is a variety or a variability in the basic sequence and the subject gene that we are talking about, then variabilities are being seen. Right? Even if we are able to decide the variabilities with the gene, how to correct those things, that can be Cas9 based activities. Then a telerobotic surgery, number 28. India became the world's first to successfully perform a telerobotic coronary intervention. Coronary intervention, or the heart surgery we can say. It was done in Ahmedabad in 2018, and it was done using a robot which was monitored from a distance of 32 kilometers. So it became one of the tools for telemedicine. So two things that can be important with this: the utility of the robots in precision surgeries. Apart from this, the utility or the basic tools involved in telemedicine, which can involve, number one, video conferencing tools, a web resource tool, even IoT tools, precision robots, which can be used in robotic surgeries also. Benefits is we'd be able to improve these surgeries, we'd be able to provide medicines to those areas where the surgeries are not possible, because the human capabilities and the machine-based capabilities, they have a difference also. So precision can also be increased with this, or improvements can be seen with coronary surgeries that we see, or the heart surgeries that we see, right? So that could be one thing. The things that can come out of it, two major facts: what is telemedicine, what is the utility of it. Second thing is how or what has been designed over here. This telerobotic surgery was in Gujarat, and for the overall thing is it has been helpful in heart surgeries using a Da Vinci system. Da Vinci system can be important in the notes. If you look up to, the term has been used, Da Vinci system. So recently Da Vinci system was in news for medicine. What is that? It is related to telemedicine. Just simple questions we can expect, right? Won't go into the what happens in surgery, how robot cuts down, or how it don't go into that. Just these small terms, they can be more important. Then a bionic mushroom. Bionic is something where we try to immaculate, or where we try to replicate the biomechanical movement. Now, this issue has two things. Number one, algae-based power generation, and the basement for algae growth. Algae, they can be helpful in development of the energy through various types of substances which are being liberated. One of them, we harbor it in biodiesel also. There could be other substances which can be harbored out of it. The growth of algae has to be continuous for this, right? If we are going for mass algal fuel based production, then the growth of these algae must be continuous. If the algae or specifically certain cyanobacteria, they are grown over synthetic medium, the longevity of these algae or continuous growth of these algae is not seen. We have to replace the algal culture again and again. So to create a constancy, we have developed mushrooms, specifically white button mushrooms, agaricus, and as a basement, these white button mushrooms, they have been used, and over these mushrooms, these algae have been grown. So it became a particular pattern where a bionic mushroom has been developed and clusters of cyanobacteria, the blue-green algae, has been grown over these mushrooms for a constancy in their growth, right? That's why this bionic mushroom is being developed. That is, the whole issue is all about. Right, bionic mushrooms. Then the biosensor techniques to detect chikungunya virus. It is a nanosheet or a nanomaterial which is being developed using molybdenum disulfide. And using this molybdenum disulfide, one thing that you can mark with this, first thing, that is a nanosheet made out of molybdenum. Second thing, the nanosheets by chemical route, they have synthesized this thing, which also uses scanning electron microscopy, transmission electron microscopy, UV visible spectroscopy, Raman spectroscopy, and X-ray diffraction. These are different spectroscopic and microscopic tools which have been used. These different types of the sheets which are developed out of molybdenum or the nanosheets, they can physically absorb the samples over different types of the gold electrodes, and then detection of the chikungunya virus can be driven, right? For our output, chikungunya virus CHKV detection tool or diagnostic tools can be, first, preliminary things are based on ELISA. They are also based on blotting techniques. The third thing can be molybdenum nanosheets based blotting so as to identify this particular virus, right? Which of the following can be diagnostic tools used for identification of viruses or diagnostic of viral diseases? Then tools, they can be ELISA based, this based, or they can be nanosheet based diagnosis also, right? This can be a simple question driven out of it. And developed by, that can be, we can look up to the fact of that. It is developed by MIT University in Noida, Jamia Millia Islamia of Delhi, and Maharshi Dayanand University of Rohtak. Researchers of all these three universities, they have developed this thing. Then 31, yes please. Blotting techniques. There are two different types of blotting, one for protein, that is western blotting, one for DNA, that is southern blotting, one for RNA, that is northern blotting. For diagnostics of different types of pathogens, these are molecular tools, right? Based on that, the nanosheets of molybdenum can also be used over here, right? Blotting, see, practically when we say molecular diagnostics, Molecular diagnostic is simply based upon identifying either the protein or DNA or RNA of any particular pathogen. Identification of the protein can be done primarily by a tool which is ELISA, which is a fast or a rapid kit, which also has pseudo results, false positive, false negative result also, that is enzyme linked immunosorbent assay. The confirmatory techniques are through blotting, which utilizes two different types of the anti-proteins against the proteins of virus, right? Primary antibodies and the secondary antibodies, they are used, which develops Western blotting for proteins. That is termed as a blotting technique. Name of the technique is blotting. DNA can be done by southern blotting, RNA can be done by northern blotting. Apart from this, for DNA it can be PCR also, polymerase chain reaction, which helps to quantify the DNA of the pathogen, right? These could be the molecular diagnostic tools. Nanomaterials used in these, they can be this based also. Which one? GenX is an outcome of these basic tools only. Sputum analysis is different. Sputum analysis is sputum. What is sputum? So uska analysis, it can be based on culture also. It can be based on identifying the DNA also. It can be based on identifying the protein also. Ultimately, you would go through the same thing.
We are analyzing the salivary amylase now. That is enzyme from Polity. So it can be based on this also.
Salivary amylase in the sputum of the human. So in the sputum, what you are trying to identify? The enzyme or the bacteria. So salivary amylase is not the bacterial enzyme. Salivary amylase is the basic digestive enzyme which is present over there.
It must be an enzyme now. It is an enzyme.
It can be a pathogen also, directly culturing the pathogen also. See, sputum analysis is done for majorly for which disease? Tuberculosis. Why tuberculosis? Because the extracts of the mycobacterium can be there with the discharges of the respiratory system. So it is the sputum just act as a carrier of that particular pathogen. You try to grow, just like the blood test, you have the sputum test, right? Ultimately, in the blood test also, there could be many factors of the blood that can be analyzed, but you are trying to identify the pathogen. So these are different tools which try to identify the basic pathogen. Either the protein of pathogen can be identified, or the DNA of the pathogen can be identified, or the RNA of it can be identified, right? What you you will try to culture that particular pathogen. Culture that particular pathogen and identify that particular pathogen using the basic microscopy also, right? Next thing is a Mitra clip. Mitra clip is to correct the damages of the mitral valve. In this, two things that we can look up to: the basic structure of heart of humans, four-chambered heart that we can see. If this is the left, this is the right. Three things in heart. The right side is not red. That means it goes through with deoxygenated blood. The left side will have oxygenated blood. Then oxygenated blood comes from lungs, goes into body. Deoxygenated blood comes from body, goes to lungs. The upper chambers of the heart, atrium, lower chambers, ventricles, right? Simple hai. There could be 4 valves also out of this, right? We can design that, वो बनाओ और lungs को connect कर दो, तो वो lung connection can be traced out of that, right? Then there could be 4 different valves which are associated. One is that is tricuspid valve is on to the right side of the heart. A valve with 3 flaps is present between atrium and ventricles onto the right side. A valve with 2 flaps is present over here onto the left side. This is bicuspid. This is tricuspid. This becomes the mitral valve also. Correction of it can be done through the mitra clip. Right. Apart from this, there could be 2 other valves. Towards the body, the blood flows through, or the oxygenated blood comes through aorta. So over here we have aortic semilunar valve, towards lungs, pulmonary semilunar valve. These are 4 valves of the heart. 1, 2, 3, 4. So the basic things related to heart that can be important with this thing, that is mitral clip has been developed to repair the damaged heart valves and specifically the mitral valve, right? So the placement of the valves that can be important with this, and the utility of the mitra clip. 32nd, the blockchain technology in the drug supply chain can be used. Blockchain we have discussed, which stores the data, or it remains as a particular tool where the data can be managed into a certain data storages pattern, which can be hack proof technology, and blockchain can be used in supply of the drugs also, because supply of the drugs, that is one more important problem associated, specifically supply of generic drugs. In the local market, there are many problems associated to the batch number, batch codes of the tablets which are being sold or the drugs which are being sold, the expiry dates, the basic manufacturer. All the information related to a particular drug is important, because we will try to capture these generic drugs from the producer to the end consumer or to the patient. Between this, there are many intermediates, and at every intermediate step there could be a fault which can be generated. Usually होता है ना कि medicines expire हो जाती है, यहाँ से उठाओगे, यहाँ लेके आओगे, उसका जो basic information है उसको rub करोगे using spirit, नया information लगाओगे और फिर से यहीं से supply कर दोगे, right? और fraud generate करोगे. Now the basic problem comes up to this vendor only, the producer or the manufacturer, which is actually sending in the right medicine at a very low cost, right? And that's how questions are raised over the quality of the generic drugs also. So there could be a problem associated with the manufacturer of the generic drug also. There could be a problem associated with the complete supply chain also. So if barcodes can be generated and placed to a particular barcode, there could be a blockchain technology associated over the medicine. Then it can be checked easily at every particular point and it can be sold. So the quality assessment of it, supply chain management of it can be maintained. When we have large scale policies specifically for generic drugs, we have to manage all these things. Otherwise, these supply chain problems would arise. Specifically, like we have the Pradhan Mantri Jan Aushadhi Yojana. Right, which is related to distribution of the generic medicines only into the government hospitals or through Pradhan Mantri Jan Aushadhi stores also. In that, managing the information of the generic drugs would be important. For that, blockchain can be used, right? So two-way question can be asked. One, are the application related to blockchain? Other applications we have seen, it can be useful in cryptocurrency, it can be useful in banking sector, financial sector, it can be used to improve the EVMs also. Every time there is an election, there is a question over EVM, right? So the information associated with EVM, storage of the national information, national secrets, defense information, etc. can be stored using blockchain. Apart from this, information related to the supply chain of the medicines can also be stored over the blockchain, right? So the utility of blockchain can also be one question that can be asked over here. Then the rosehip neurons, the newest neurons in the human brain. This rosehip neuron type, this is a new pattern of the neuron which has been seen near the cells of atlas over here in the central nervous system. And these different types of neurons, they have extensive binding with the neurons nearby. Basically, if we look up to neuron, then neurons are the basic nervous system cells. The nervous system primarily is central nervous system and the peripheral nervous system, CNS and PNS, right? Specifically, if we look up to the neurons, they are structures like this. The central part is axon, which is the basic cell, and then there is an elongation of the cytoplasm of the cell, which becomes the dendron. And the fibers over here, they are dendrites, right? Then there is a constant connection between neurons. This constant connection between neurons create nerve junctions or synapse. They can be connected as axon connections, dendron connections, etc. At the synapse or along the neurons, when they are present in peripheral nervous system, a myelin sheath is covering these neurons. When they are present in the central nervous system, this myelin sheath is not present, right? There are certain small cells which are also arranged along the dendron, and then above these cells, there is a myelin sheath in peripheral nervous system. Peripheral nervous system is everything apart from the brain and the parts of spinal cord. When it extends into the body, it becomes peripheral nervous system. Then we have the myelin sheath. Inside the brain, we do not have the myelin sheath. So the exact characteristic of the neurons in the central nervous system is grayish appearance. Outside the central nervous system is whitish appearance because of that myelin sheath which is present. The impulse is transmitted from one neuron to another neuron by polarization and depolarization of the membrane of the neuron through movement of sodium and potassium, right? Sodium and potassium movement constant in an outward flow releases or transmits impulse from one end to another end of the neuron. At the junctions of the neuron or at the synapse, there are specific chemicals which are filled. These chemicals are neurotransmitters. These neurotransmitters, they can be adrenaline, they can be noradrenaline type of substances. At the neurotransmitter or at the neural junctions, neurotransmitters are released from one neuron to another, reaches the another neutron, induces polarization of the membrane again, then released at the junction again, then induces the polarization, and that's how impulse is transmitted from one end to another end. That is also taken up as nerve conduction or nerve impulse conduction, right? The rosehip type of neurons which have been discussed with this particular topic, they have extensive dendrite formations. If you look up to rosehip neurons, the first point of it, the neuron is named after the small red fruit of the rose plant, which is termed as rosehip or defragmented rose, right? The distinctive rosehips, distinctive shape, rosehips have long branches called dendrites that receive signals from other neurons. In rosette cells, these dendrites are very compact and lots of branch points resemble to a rosette, right? That's why just like there are many condensed dendrites, these fibers, there are many such fibers which can create extensive binding with other neurons, right? That's why they have been important. So two things that can be important. One is related to the exact nature of neuron, the utility of it, how the impulse transmission is seen with the neuron, because of what sodium and potassium is required, right? And then the overall utility of it.
So how is it different from other neurons in respect to function?
Not exactly in function, because function is transmission. It is different than other neurons because the other neurons, they will not have such extensive bindings. Neuron to neuron binding is seen, but one neuron connected to many such neurons, many extensive dendrites are, if they are created, that means many branching are there. Better is the branching between neuron to neuron, better is the transmission. Better is the utility of a nerve. Better is the functioning of the nervous system also. That they are present in patches. They specifically the human cell atlas, which is if we look up to, then much of it is seen in the central nervous system, the rosette ones. They have been defined. That's why they have been taken up. Though the similar type of the things, whether they would be present in humans, that is not defined, because much of it is being seen with the animal systems only, right? We are trying to replicate that thing with the human brain cells also. Next is the nerve agent. Nerve agent are those which can then block these neurotransmitters, right? And the overall functioning, specifically when nerve agents are there, then the involuntary functions, they are being affected the most. There could be two different types of the functions. It could be voluntary function, which can be dependent on the central and peripheral nervous system, and it can be involuntary function, which is also dependent on the autonomous nervous system, ANS, right? There are many involuntary functions for which we don't have to think and they automatically happen, right? खाना खाते हो तो क्या सोचना पड़ता है अच्छा खाना खा लिया है ये stomach तक पहुंच जाए. There are many valves between your end of the buccal cavity or end of the cavity and then the stomach, right? There are many sphincters over here. These sphincters, different types of the valves, they are under the control of autonomous nervous system, for which there is a will or the voluntary understanding is not required, right? When nerve agent come into play, or if there are certain neurotoxins which are being given, then these nerve agents then block the release of these neurotransmitters, or it hinders the release of these neurotransmitters. It can block or it can relay the neurotransmitter at a faster rate also. If that happens, then the involuntary functions are first. The problems appear with the involuntary functions also, and ultimately the person may also forget to breathe also, respire also. Do you think every time to respire? हर बार सोचना अच्छा बहुत देर हो गया ऑक्सीजन नहीं लिया. It does not happen. The autonomous nervous system it is not in the direct voluntary control. So ultimately when the involuntary functions or involuntary control is being hampered, then nerve agents can also lead towards a particular point where the person may stop breathing also. So that may die also. So this has been seen practically with a Russian spy and his daughter, right? And a particular nerve gas was given to them. They lost their involuntary functions. They started to urinate also involuntarily. Ultimately, they died, or they came up to a particular point of death also, and they forgot to breathe. Ultimately, that happened with the nerve agent. So two things over here, nerve agent and their basic role. And the second thing, what exactly at the international level do we have to control such events? Then we have a chemical weapons convention. The Chemical Weapon Convention is a universal, non-discriminatory, multilateral disarmament treaty that bans the development, production and acquisition, transfer, use and stockpile or retaining chemical weapons, right? So these nerve agents, if they are tested over any particular spy even also, then this is the violation of the chemical treaty which has been seen. So the poisoning by a nerve agent has been into news. So out of that, what is nerve agent and what is chemical weapon treaty? These could be two important things. Then WHO called for elimination of so-called 1 centimeter per hour benchmark. That is, this is related to delivery of the child, right? This practical thing. And in the delivery of the child, C-sections are used, and then expansion of the C-section is associated, right? This can go up to 11 centimeters to for swift delivery of the child per hour itself during the labor pain, right? So now WHO has came up with the new guidelines. That is all about this particular issue. We may not expect much of the things coming out of it, right? Then the Earth Biogenome Project. The Earth Biogenome Project related with DNA databases and sequencing also. Sequence and catalog the genomes of the all Earth's currently described eukaryotic species over a period of 10 years. We try to sequence this thing. DNA sequencing act as a tool where we try to understand the nature of the DNA codes, the type of the genetic structures, the type of the overall understanding of the genome structure also can be understood using DNA sequencing. DNA sequencing utilizes two different tools continuously. One is polymerase chain reaction. Second one is quantitative polymerase chain reaction, where by using color-coded or chromatographic artificial entities, we try to synthesize a new DNA, and over the new DNA, we try to understand the sequence of the new DNA, and complementarity of that can help to understand the sequence of the basic DNA. This is all done using a machine, which is an integrated machine, which is a DNA sequencer, right? Plus the bioinformatics tools, they are used to understand the basic nature of it. That is DNA sequencing. Based on DNA sequencing, various applications have been defined recently. The DNA tagging of the victims of criminals also, the DNA records of it, it can also reach up to DNA sequencing. Then Human Genome Project of 2009 was also one of the major initiative over DNA sequencing. We also have the Frozen Ark project, which was sequencing of the genome of the endangered species, right, or critically endangered species. Now we have came up with two major projects over here. One is Earth Biogenome, going for sequencing of the DNA of all the eukaryotic species which are present, right, which would be an open database of the biological information and will help to understand the basic, will help to understand the evolution of these species also and the basic nature of the genome present with the eukaryotic species, right. Practically would be initiated by UK. Then we have the 100K Genome Asia project. The 100K Genome Asia project is associated with sequencing of the genome of humans, specifically in the Asian region, and more specifically in the Southeast Asia. In the Southeast Asia, India is also participating with this 100K genome project with CSIR and Ministry of Health and Family Welfare and DBT coming into place, right. Specifically, it would help to understand the nature of the genome, genetics, genes with the Southeast Asian population, also with the Asian population, and otherwise said the Caucasian breed, right, or the race of the humans, or the genetics of that can be taken up. Then the Human Microbiome Project also. The Human Microbiome Project is targeted to sequence the DNA of all different types of the microflora, bacteria and other microorganisms, or the whether pathogenic, non-pathogenic, all different types of the microorganisms associated with the human body, trying to isolate that thing and trying to sequence all different types of the genome of all this. This will help to create a long-term strategy of the therapy also by differentiably understanding the nature of the genes of pathogenic species then we'd be able to understand the nature of changes that can appear with the pathogenic species. That can also help in developing differential polyvalent vaccines also for various dreadful pathogens which are present, which may turn into drug resistant also, or which may turn into those dreadful pathogens for which the cures cannot be developed in the future, because the overall limit of the chemical synthesis of the drugs would also end up someday. So what is the nature or genetic nature of these species? What are the genes? How they can change? If there is a complete alteration, what could be the possibilities of the change? And if we can understand the possibilities of the change, we can also design different resistance strategies also, where our immune system would itself function to generate a resistance against these. That will help to develop different types of the vaccines also. This is just an initiation of understanding. It could be the later use of this human microbiome project also. Right. So human microbiome project will map trillions upon trillions microbes, bacteria, fungus, viruses and archaea, which are found in Indians. Right. Basically the tribal population would also be taken up. And the 11 research institutes and universities, they are participating, starting from the All India Institute of Medical Sciences, AIIMS, Institute of Advanced Studies in Science and Technology in Guwahati, and Symbiosis International University, right? And is being led by the National Center for Microbial Resources, NCMR, in Pune, right? So all these institutes, they are associated, and the basic utility of this would be to target the sequence of the microorganisms. So human microbiome project. Archaea are those type of the bacteria. If we look up to bacteria classes, then the primitive type of bacteria, right? Then the integrated health information platform, IHIP, that will help to create an online inventory of the patients, right? A web registry of the patients. The health record of the patients can also be done on a pan-India basis. That is the basic utility of this integrated health information portal, initiated by Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, IHIP. That can be important, right? Because ICT initiative है तो Ministry of Electronics या Telecommunication पे नहीं चले जाना, Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, right? For pan-India health records of the citizens, that is IHIP. IHIP will also initiate integrated disease surveillance program, that you can mark. Integrated disease surveillance program, a module of integrated health information, which is to be launched in 7 districts of the states of Karnataka, Andhra Pradesh, Himachal Pradesh, Odisha, Uttar Pradesh, Telangana and Kerala. Right, Andhra Pradesh and Telangana. Then we come down to this Odisha. Then we have Kerala also nearby, Karnataka also, except Tamil Nadu, 4 states of southern India, and then we have Uttar Pradesh. We also have this Himachal Pradesh, right? 5 states in southern India, 2 in the northern India. Uttar Pradesh and Himachal in northern, and southern 5, right? Except Tamil Nadu. That would be integrated disease surveillance program. Then Eat Right India movement. Eat Right India movement is started by FSSAI, that is Food Safety and Standards Authority of India, which is targeted. First thing, FSSAI, which is targeted to understand the basic utility of diet in controlling different types of the diseases, right? So eat right and stay healthy is the basic target with this particular program, and the Swasth Bharat mission is targeted with this, right? So Swasth Bharat Yatra, that is Dandi se Handi tak, is an initiative, right? BJP आएगी ऐसे ही नाम लाएगी, right? Mahatma Gandhi's Dandi March and Salt Satyagraha was in 1930. Then we have started with this Dandi se Handi tak, that is Dandi se namak leke aao aur handi tak dalo. That is the basic target. The basic objective of this Eat Right movement is stay healthy, eating healthy, stay safe, fortified. There must not be food wastage, and the physical activity is targeted, right? जो 3 aspect हैं, eat healthy, eat safe, eat fortified, eat nutritious, are the 3 aspects of the food ministry, and 2 aspects of Baba Ramdev also, right? That is no food wastage and the physical movement also. That is these two things or these 5 things have been taken up, and to improve upon the nutrition content of the food in the low income grade countries also can be the futuristic use of it. So Eat Right India movement is from FSSAI, right? याद रहेगा डांडी से हांडी तक. Okay. Another thing of FSSAI is Food Safety and Standard Authority of India has made food fortification regulations, right? It has came up with the fortification of the food regulations 2018, and these regulations, they specify that any particular food which has fortified nutrients, then that particular processed food or the raw material also, or any particular food related substance, it must be clearly mentioned with this, that what is the amount of fortified substance, right? Like for example, the fortification of the staples stated in the Food Safety and Standards Fortification of the Food Regulation 2018 is not compulsory. You can add on to fortified nutrients, but added, then it must be mentioned properly. It is not compulsory that at every particular cereal must be fortified. First thing, the fortification of the product, use of OF plus F logo, right? That has been mentioned. Addition of iodine to commercial salt is made mandatory. Apart from this, food fortification national agenda has been brought down with this. Dosage of the micronutrients, specifically 30 to 50% of the micronutrients which are required for daily requirement, that has also been mandatory. In milk and oil, and units of the dosage, that has been changed to microgram retinol equivalents of vitamin A and microgram of vitamin D. The equivalents of vitamin A and D is being taken up, and Vanaspati has been taken out of this thing. Vanaspati has to be excluded out of this, the complete food cycle. We are trying to reduce the Vanaspati ghee. It was 5% of the total oil supply. Now it is to be reduced to 2% of the total oil supply. So the fortification of Vanaspati has been exempted or excluded. We need not to fortify, because we need to reduce Vanaspati also, because it is adding upon trans fats, right? So fortification, if it is done, then it must be properly mentioned with the food, and iodine is mandatory. Rest fortification can be done, if done, then mentioned, right? Not necessarily done. Then the transgenic rice with the advanced arsenic accumulation. 42. Rice variety has been generated which can accumulate. Rather earlier, if we look up to, then in the West Bengal, accumulation of the arsenic in the paddy fields. This is one issue that we have discussed, which was majorly because of the geological activities also, which was majorly as an outcome of the industrial pollution also. Now, one variety which can reduce the accumulation of this arsenic with rice, that has been developed, and it has arsenic methyl transferase. Arsenic methyl transferase, or WARS-M gene. This will provide arsenic methyl transferase, an enzyme which can help to reduce the accumulation of arsenic. This WARS-M gene has came from fungus, a soil fungus, right, which has been inserted using Agrobacterium tumefaciens plasmid, right? Overall tool, this is developed over production of genetically modified organisms, and it can be done using recombinant DNA technology, the basic tool where insertion of the genes can be taken from one species to another species. This is basic utility of genetic engineering. In genetic engineering, genes are brought down from microorganisms, from plants, from even humans into plants, or also microorganisms. Based on which various different types of the plants are known. We have BT cotton, BT brinjal, which is the source of controversy, We also had DMH11 much recently, which is genetically modified mustard. Now we have this GM rice also. We also had one more variety of the rice, which was fortified rice, which was golden basmati for vitamin A or provitamin A accumulation with the rice, right? These are different varieties of the otherwise transgenic varieties also, which are popularly known. Okay, so apart from this, if simply asked, one variety of the transgenic rice was recently known, what is the basic utility of it? To reduce accumulation of arsenic. That can be a direct question that can be raised.
Sir, fortification is an application of genetic engineering?
No, not exactly. Fortification is something where either we add on something through genetics also, we can add on certain substrates artificially also. Fortification is increasing the nutrient content of the food material which we are taking up. It can be done naturally also. Naturally we add on to certain genes which can improve.
It can be called as genetically modified or
Fortified rice also, both. Then the same thing that we have discussed earlier, fake drugs can be fighted with blockchain, 43. Then Project Dhoop, 44. ये एक ऐसा initiative है जो MCD Delhi ने start किया था, and it is quite funny also, right? It is initiated by Dhoop, NCRT plus Government of Municipal Corporation of Delhi, MCD, right? And the basic target is to increase the exposure of the sunlight in the children's, to increase the vitamin D accumulation in their body, right? वैसे बताओ vitamin D के sources क्या क्या हैं? Sunlight. Sunlight is the source of vitamin D. Sunlight से उड़ता हुआ vitamin D आता है. It is one of the mediator which can help in synthesis, which can help in the fat metabolism inside the body. That then helps in synthesis of the vitamin D, which is esterol base, right? So the exposure to sunlight, yes, helps in increase the metabolism of vitamin D in the body. Apart from this, there could be fishes, which is the fish oil or the liver oil of fishes, that are also the major sources of vitamin D. Apart from this, there could be certain mushrooms which can also be one of the sources of vitamin D. The richest sources of vitamin D, naturally, if they are known, then there are certain mushrooms which have also been known, varieties of mushrooms which can be vitamin D sources, right? So to increase vitamin D, specifically why this vitamin D is required? It is associated with calcium accumulation in release of calcium in blood or accumulation of calcium in bones. Release of calcium from bone. If vitamin D increases, then release of calcium from the bones increases. It decreases reabsorption of calcium from the blood into the bones. This calcium also remains in this bone and blood utility, where two different hormones are also utilized. One is thyrocalcitonin, which is secreted by thyroid. Another one is parathormone. Parathormone into blood, thyrocalcitonin into bone, right? Towards the bone, if the calcium is released, then from this the vitamin D and all that is required, right, for this. So it is helpful in absorption of the calcium from the blood, right? If vitamin D is not present, then the diseases, osteomalacia in adults and rickets in neonates. Scurvy vitamin C से होगा, right? So for this, the project Dhoop is being started. Project Dhoop is targeted with changing the assembly time. It is said that the intensity of the sunlight is lower in the morning, So to increase the accumulation of vitamin D, the assembly time must be changed to near 11 o'clock in the afternoon rather than morning 7 or 8 o'clock in the morning in the MCD schools, so that children's would be, or exposure to sunlight or more sunlight activities can be increased near 11 o'clock, right? Or that is the basic utility of Project Dhoop, right? So vitamin D is more required than water in body, according to Project Dhoop. सुबह की धूप इसलिए important होती है because accumulation of vitamin D was ideally understood that accumulation of vitamin D is maximum or metabolism of calcium is maximum when we get exposed to the morning sunlight, right? But that conception has been changed also by WHO reports, which says that this accumulation can be higher post 10 o'clock when the intensity of the sunlight increases, right? So it is not that the dawn and the dusk sunlight or the morning and the evening sunlight which is more important, rather the sunlight near to noon is more important for accumulation of vitamin D. For that only this Project Dhoop has came up, right? But practically, according to Project Dhoop, vitamin D is more important in body than water in body, because at 11 o'clock there would be more dehydration also, which was for which the questions were raised over Project Dhoop also. Then trans fats or its basic elimination by 2022. Basic thing associated to the term which is trans fats. Trans fats, or what we can call it as the transformed fat, right? Any fat which is vegetative in origin is the source fat. Now post this, whatever happens to a particular fat, that may turn into a trans fat, right? Either this vegetative fat is industrially processed or dehydrogenated, that is vanaspati. Ghee is created out of this, or vegetative fat goes into living system, accumulated by the living system, or it is a nature of animal fat. Any of these type of the fats which are being seen, they are trans fats or transformed fats. Fats, if we look up to, then the basic constituent of fats are fatty acids. Two basic nature of fatty acids are being defined. One are saturated fatty acids, another one are unsaturated fatty acids. In saturated fatty acids, the single bond between carbon and carbon is seen, because of which extensive branching of the carbon chain appears. That means the condensation of such fatty acids is higher than the condensation of these type. These type of the fatty acids, they can be branched. These type of the fatty acids, they can be linear. Carbon, carbon attached like this. Linear, right? They can be branched. Carbon, 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 then branching of it, then branching of it. So the branched carbon cycles, they are difficult to be broken, right? Because branch, when they will be broken, they will again create more branch substances. When these are broken, linear substances or linear fatty acids, they are being created, right? That's why the oils or the vegetative oil must have polyunsaturated fatty acids or PUFA, right? Or monounsaturated fatty acids, MUFA, right? Which is preferred. In the basic fat, which may be vegetative in origin, the content of PUFA and MUFA can be higher. Whenever there is transformation, whether it is dehydrogenation, which converts the vegetative oil into vegetative ghee or vanaspati ghee, the overall nature or overall content of the saturated fatty acids may increase. With the animal fats, when it is transformed through metabolic transformation and accumulated, the amount of saturated fatty acids are also more, right? That's why trans fats are dangerous. If we'll keep on utilizing trans fats, or if we'll keep on consuming trans fats, such trans fats are accumulated more in the body. Heart problems, the atherosclerosis or blockage of the arteries, or problems associated with the blood pressure increase. All these can be the basic problems which can be seen as a resultant of trans fats. That's why nowadays trans fats are to be reduced, and majority of the packaged food, earlier they were using trans fats, now they are trans fat free also. They have started writing it that it is a trans fat free. So it can be either having a fat of transformation or a fat coming from animal origin also. That's why these were dangerous fats, and now they are to be removed completely by 2022. It has been said by FSSAI that the percentage of trans fat has to be reduced below 2% of the total usage in the country or of the fats in the country. That is the basic target of this. That is, removal of trans fats by 2022 is the basic target. Then new norms for labeling of the packaged genetically modified food also. SDL and low density lipids and high density lipids. HDL is good cholesterol of the body which is stored, which is used for cholesterol metabolism also. HDL is the low density of the lipids which may be more saturated, right, which get accumulated. LDL is dangerous, HDL can be good for us. Then the next issue deals up with the new norms of labeling the packaged genetically modified food. The new norm says that if there is a genetically modified food based substance mixed with the food substrates, or any food material contains any part of genetically modified food, then it must be properly marked, right? And a red color or in dark red colored larger block must be placed apart from the smaller block red, that is for non-veg or any kind of the animal origin coming from this red color. It would be larger, which contains GMO. So more specific markings are to be brought down under the packaged food materials. That is being said under this. If you look up to the food packs, would have a designated space colored red in case, right, where the value of energy from where the genetically modified food material is to be utilized. That is the basic idea of this particular, or the basic circumference of this particular issue, right? Then 47, animal free testing of the drugs. The drugs are now to be maintained, because earlier they were going for pyrogen test. Pyrogen test is testing for the toxicity of the drugs over animals. There are three different lineage of this. First we test over mice, then we test over higher organisms like rabbits, then we test over monkeys, right? That becomes the pyrogen test or the toxicity test, whether this particular drug or a chemical which has been researched, the toxicity of it is not, it is under control, so that it can be tested in the human systems. So that test is to be taken out. Now the tests are to be made animal free, and that can be tested. This pyrogen test can be taken using bacterial endotoxins. It can be tested over microorganisms, and the values of toxicity can be based over different types of the bacterial endotoxins, or the test driven on the bacterial endotoxins. That has been taken up, which is now being created, that the animals would now be made free of the test for the new types of the drugs. That is all about. So two things: pyrogen test, what is that? That is testing of the new chemicals over the animals. And then the endotoxins, they can be used for, it can be endotoxin based or a kind of antibody based test which can be generated for toxicity, right? Then this Elysia chlorotica. Elysia chlorotica is one type of the slug, or a green sea slug also spoken. Slug, we can say a snail like organism. And this Elysia chlorotica is important, or has been into news, because this slug, it eats over algae, and then it breaks down the algae into cell fragments and its photosynthetic assembly, that is plastid. and then this slug absorbs this plastid and maintains this plastid completely for the rest of the lifetime. That means it eats once in the lifetime, that eating is of the algae only, and it extracts the plastid and maintains the plastic with itself, and finally it goes for photosynthesis. So it becomes a particular model where an animal can go through photosynthesis. If such models are known, तो ऐसा तो हम भी कर सकते हैं, right? झगड़ा खत्म हो जाएगा सारा. We would be able to synthesize our own food. Okay. Elysia chlorotica is a slug which eats over an algae, breaks down the algae into rest of the thing plus plastid.
Slug is an algae feeding creature.
Yes, slug is a snail-like thing, right? A marine snail, right? It eats over this algae. Now algae will have plastid, which is photosynthetic. Now it breaks this thing, it absorbs everything else than plastid, and then maintains plastic near its abdominal cavity into the upper surfaces. This plastid then helps in photosynthesis and providing energy to this slug. This has created a new model where animals developing their energy through photosynthesis, they have been modeled into this. That's why it is important. That is Elysia chlorotica or green sea slug, right? That you can mark. If this can be done, at least this has been taken up as one of the model for development of bioenergy. Not only algae, certain types of organisms, they can also be harvested. They can be harvested, at least their culturing can be done, and we can extract bioenergy out of it also, because photosynthesis is one thing out of which we are developing bioenergy or the bioenergy based products. So if these can be taken, this can be a model for bioenergy production also. Next is quadrivalent influenza vaccine. In 2018, for the first time, the WHO issued an official recommendation for quadrivalent vaccine. That quadrivalent vaccine, which would be developed from Sanofi Pasteur, and it would be an injectable vaccine. Quadrivalent, polyvalent or multivalent means association of more than one type of the proteins of the pathogen, which can resemble differential shapes of the pathogen, right? This helps to generate the immune system response related to either different shapes of the pathogen or related to similar type of different subspecies of a pathogen, right? Like influenza is something where virus can appear into various type of the shapes also, various subspecies of it also is known. H1N1, H5N1, H1N1 क्या है? Swine flu. H5N1, bird flu, right? Other more influenza viruses are also known, which can be experimental viruses or other viruses also, because bird flu and swine flu, they were the experimental disasters, right? But other influenza characters are also seen, or other influenza viruses are also seen, for which multivalent vaccines, if they are brought down, this will help either help to cut down or generate immunity for various shapes of a pathogen, number one, or will help to generate immunity against various subspecies of the same type of the virus, right? That can be useful, and this has been inducted, developed by Sanofi Pasteur, called as the Flu Quadri. The name of the vaccine is Flu Quadri. It would be an injectable vaccine, right? Then fortification of the rice. Right. Now this fortification of the rice, if we speak of, then the government is trying to provide, or Niti Aayog has created a policy of providing fortified rice, specifically in those areas where rice is the staple food, right? It will help to create a layer of vitamin A over the fortified rice, which would create which would then spray. The rice can be fortified. If you look up to box, then the fourth point into this, rice can be fortified by adding micronutrient powder to the rice, which adheres to the grain, or spraying the surface of ordinary rice grain in several layers with a vitamin and mineral mix to form a protective coating. This can be fortification also, rice fortification also, right? So this rice kernels can be fortified with several micronutrients such as iron, folic acid, vitamin B complex, vitamin A and zinc, etc. That fortification of rice is to be started by Niti Aayog, right? So for what is fortification, what is the utility of fortification, and what are the norms of fortification which has been taken up by FSSAI? This can be one of the hot topic for this year, right? Then the colored X-ray of the human. The colored X-ray of the human, till date we had the black and white X-ray of human. For the first time, the CERN, that was known for that, the Large Hadron Collider experiment also, right? Using tools in CERN, we have developed a colored X-ray of the humans also. That's why it was into news, right? So just a kind of information for that, right? Then T null phenotype. A team of doctors led by Shamshi Shastri from the blood bank of Kasturba Medical College identified a rare blood group which is PP or P null type, right? Basically, if we look up to blood groups in humans, then blood groups of humans are A, B, O and AB, which is practically also these different types of the blood groups are because of different types of the proteins present on the RBCs, right? Now, for which there are two major genes which are responsible. The major genes, the first one is the gene I, which is responsible for coding different types of the proteins. This gene I has a particular importance that it shows multiple dominance. Multiple dominance in genetics is something which is taken up as something which does not follows the Mendel's law of genetics. The Mendel's law of genetics says anything which is a gene which can control a characteristic can have two different types of the traits which are termed as alleles. For a particular population, one allele can be dominant, another one can be recessive, right? But for the blood groups in humans, multiple dominance is seen because I can have two different type of the dominant alleles. One dominant allele which expresses A, another dominant allele which expresses B. They can either be expressed singularly or they can be expressed with each other. That's why AB blood group is seen. Or if it is not expressed, then blood group O appears. That's why multiple dominance appears, right? This is the basic genotype of the blood groups. This genotype of the blood group is also controlled by one more gene which is H. If H is normal, then the blood groups which are expressed, they can be normal. But if H is not normal, if H is recessive, then appears the Bombay blood group. This is also rare characteristic of the blood group. In this, the genotype can be anything, but the expression of the blood group is always O. Genotype is anything, but the expression is always O. तो वो पेरेंटल जो डिस्टिंक्शंस होते हैं ना कि ये इसका ए बी है और इसका भी ए बी है, अगर मेल का भी ए बी है, फीमेल का भी ए बी है, तो बच्चे का ए बी तो होगा ही. हर पॉसिबल ए बी या ए बी हो सकता है हर पॉसिबल से, राइट? ओ तो नहीं होगा. और अगर ओ होगा बच्चे का तो that's why Bombay blood group becomes a rare type of the blood group. Apart from this, with the blood group, there could be Rh factor which is also associated. This Rh factor is the rhesus factor which comes from the rhesus monkey, right? Either it can be positive or negative. If in any of the parent, if it is positive, the children will have Rh factor devoid of the other parent, right? So that is also one thing. Apart from this, one more type of the genotype has been seen right now, which is P null, right? This is a rare type of the genotype which is being seen right now. That's why it has been into news, right? Yes, please.
What is the difference between phenotype and genotype?
Phenotype is what is expressed. Genotype is what is your genome. Then this bacteria Wolbachia. The research on bacterium Wolbachia, if introduced in mosquitoes, could stop the disease spreading viruses from growing and spreading, right? If this bacteria goes into the anti-mosquitoes, then specifically dengue and such type of the diseases, they can be stopped from being spread from one thing to another thing. It can act as another thing which controls the overall spread of the different types of the parasites, specifically the parasites like dengue. Dengue spreads through which type of the mosquito? Aedes aegypti, right? Also chikungunya also comes from Aedes aegypti, Zika also comes from Aedes aegypti. So if this bacteria, if it is grown, that is Wolbachia, then this bacteria can stop the transmission of the viral diseases specifically. That's why it has been into news, right? Then affordable water disinfection system, that is ONIR. ONIR is something which is taken up as the water disinfection system, which is developed by CSIR along with the Indian Institute of Toxicological Research. This Indian Institute of Toxicological Research, IITR, is in Lucknow. That is part of CSIR team only. The device will continuously treat water and eliminate all disease-causing pathogens such as virus, bacteria, fungus, protozoa, and cyst to provide safe drinking water. Right, ONIR. This ONIR system was available with the railways also. Right. They are to be adopted onto railways में भी adopt किया गया है, जिसमें 2 पैसे per liter was the basic cost. वो 2 रुपए per liter में दे रहे थे, फिर 5 rupees per liter कर दिया था later. That ONIR based thing, right? That is affordable water disinfection system. Next is bisphenol or BPA. This is scientists have created tiny spheres that can catch and destroy bisphenol, a synthetic chemical used to make plastic that often contaminates water. Bisphenol is practically BPA is an outcome of the plastic substances. Earlier, or the earlier grades of plastic, they had this bisphenol addition. Now, majority of the plastics which are to be used for edible purposes or edible utilities, they are made BPA free also. 2 grades of the plastic are seen with BPA, VPA positive, VPA negative, right? But earlier, if plastics were releasing BPA, then plastic used in water pipes, plastic used in storage tanks, plastic used in utensils, etc., would release BPA, and this BPA would then come down to water. Now there are certain small particles which have been developed which can control this bisphenol A, right? That's why it was into news also. So control of it, the basic BPA, what is BPA and why it is problematic, that can be one aspect of this question, right? Then NIFTM, the Union Ministry has approved the introduction of National Institute of Food Technology, Entrepreneurship and Management Bill in 2019, and it will help to establish major food technology institutes. The one would be National Institute of Food Technology and Management in Kundli near Delhi, and another one is the Indian Institute of Food Processing Technology, that is in Tanjore. These are the 2 institutes which are to be established. Apart from this, a principal academic body would also be established under this bill. This helps to improve the food technology and food technology sectors also. Research in the food technology, also new technologies can be brought down in food processing also. That could be the basic utility of it also. Then scutoid, a new shape discovered. Scutoid is something which is between 2 differential shapes. It can be a combination of 2 shapes. That's why this scutoid shape has been seen. This scutoid shape is seen with the epithelial cells. Epithelial are those which are associated with the skin or covering of any particular organ, right? So epithelial cells or associated cells, they can have a scutoid shape also. Earlier they were columnar cells, cuboid cells also. They were small membrane, a very thin lining of the cells also. This new shape was not seen earlier with the skin based cells. Now this shape is also seen, which may be a combination of a hexagon and a cuboid based structure. And it acts as a singular cell only. Earlier it was thought that these are 2 different cells. One is hexagon, another one is the cuboid shape, and they are combined together, right? They are arranged together. But later it was seen that these 2 things, they are common for a cell only. So that shape became the scutoid shape, right? present with the epidermal cells or epithelial cells or the skin based cells. Then the living will has been into this thing, whether this Supreme Court of India had a particular thing that right to die can also be fundamental right, and there could be various things where it can be kept out of the right to life also, right? If there is a will to die, the person can be given a right to die also, provided the person has written that particular will before reaching on to a particular state that he is not into a revertible state. If he has written and kept it, and according to that will, the person can be killed, right? So euthanasia, if we say, for example, euthanasia has also always been into objection. Questions were raised whether euthanasia is legal or not. A particular person has created a right to die or a will to die or a living will, then the euthanasia can be considered. That's what is the basic issue all about, right? Chalo, come down to space. Quickly we can understand certain things in space technology. Page number 21. First one, there are certain important initiatives which have been taken up by ISRO that we can look up to. GSAT 11, mark it. It is one of the heaviest satellites launched by India, and this would be helpful in relay of broadband internet. Wireless broadband internet can be helpful in BharatNet project, GSAT 11. BharatNet, if we look up to a program which is targeted to provide broadband internet up to the villages, right, is divided into 3 phases. The phase 1 is to provide connectivity or broadband connectivity by December 2017, which has been achieved up to 1 lakh gram panchayats. By 2019, wired or wireless broadband connection is to be achieved in all 2.5 lakh gram panchayats under BharatNet project, and by 2024, proper connectivity between the block levels and the district headquarters is to be generated through coaxial cables, right? That is by 2024, so that we would be able to achieve a broadband connectivity and an improved infrastructure of connectivity of the internet up to the gram panchayats, where we can cover all the 2.5 lakh gram panchayats. So to aid with the second phase of this GSAT 11 can be an important satellite which has been launched and can be utilizable for the release of it. Majority of it is dependent on K-band receptors and K-underband receptors also, which helps in relay of the broadband signals, right? That's why it was into news also. Then this GSAT 7A, which is also a communication satellite which has been launched, and it is to be used for GSAT 7A is to be used for advanced military communication and meant primarily for Indian Air Force, because Indian Navy has this GSAT 7, so Air Force will have this GSAT 7A. This is for defense communication, right? Then ExceedSat, which is India's first private satellite, right? The satellite with a lifespan of 5 years will allow people to receive signals on 145.9 megahertz frequency, which will be helpful for a TV tuner, right? So ExceedSat is the first private satellite which has been sent. Then GSLV Mk3D, which has been into news, the advanced version of GSLV Mach 3D, which would place the launch vehicle technologies in the country into the heavy range launch vehicle system, which can lift up to 4,000 kgs of the weight to near 2,000 kilometers of the orbital spaces, or can reach up to 4,000 kilometers of the orbital spaces with a weight of 2,000 to 2,500 kgs also, right? It would be dependent on 3-stage fuel system. One is solid, second is liquid, third one is cryogenic, right? Will have strap-on boosters which are larger than the strap-on boosters of GSLV Mk1. The Mk3D is developed using a separate platform than Mk1 and is larger in size and much more efficient in capabilities also, right? The engines which are used could be the core engine at the core engine of the solid propellant at the platform or integrated with the platform. Second one is the Vikas engine, which helps in burning up of the liquid propellant, which is UDMH, which is used in the second stage, and third one would be the Kaveri engine, which is developed, or Kaveri generation of the engines which are being developed for cryogenic purposes, right? So cryogenic engine cores can be seen, or CE70 engine cores can be seen with cryogenic, where it can help to burn down liquid hydrogen and liquid oxygen as the basic oxidizer also. That has been used. That is GSLV Mk3D, the basic utility of it. Vikas engine, liquid Vikas. Two Vikas we have this, right? वही विकास जो बीच में पागल हो गया था. The difference between, चलो बताओ, जियोस्टेशनरी और जियोसिंक्रोनस में डिफरेंस क्या होता है? Geostationary satellite number 1 is something which is parallel to equator, right? At 0 degree inclination, will have a time period of revolution of 23 hours 56 minutes 4 seconds. Always parallel to, so any plane parallel to equator would be geostationary. Second thing, geosynchronous can be anything which could be near polar also, or near geostationary. The inclination between near polar to near geostationary can be geosynchronous. They are synchronous to a particular location, right? That means at 4 o'clock, if it is above Delhi, it will always be at 4 o'clock it is above Delhi, right? The second thing is, both of these, geostationary and geosynchronous, they are middle earth orbits, that is placed between 22,000, 2,000 kilometers to 35,786 kilometers above the earth's surface, right? Both of them, they are middle earth orbits, but the apogee and perigee, apogee closest and perigee the farthest point, the apogee and perigee of these are different. The perigee of the geostationary can be near 1.2 lakh kilometers, whereas for geosynchronous can reach up to 1.8 lakh kilometers also, right? So that is the basic technical difference. Near, if we say polar synchronous orbits, they are synchronous to a particular location, to a particular time, and they always revolve in a polar orbit. Polar orbits, those which can have the angle of inclination which is near 90 degrees. That's how these three orbits are being defined. Right, for sending any particular thing into geosynchronous orbits, we require much amount of the effort also. That's why GSLV is more advanced than the PSLV, which is a mid-range lift vehicle, whereas in the GSLV is a high-range lift vehicle. The initial high-range lift vehicles would be GSLV Mk3D. स्ट्रैप-ऑन बूस्टर्स प्रैक्टिकली सॉलिड प्रोपेलेंट को लेने के लिए जाते हैं पीएसएलवी में, लेकर के जाते हैं, जो अपर स्टेजेस में सॉलिड प्रोपेलेंट को प्रोवाइड करने में हेल्प करते हैं, और सिंस बर्न होने के बाद वो बूस्टर्स इजीली स्ट्रैप आउट हो सकते हैं, सो द बेसिक रॉकेट वेट कैन बी रिड्यूस्ड डायरेक्टली फ्रॉम पीएसएलवी. That is used with PSLV also used with GSLV with differential capabilities and amount of lift required from these vehicles. The overall amount of fuel which can be sent with this, that can vary. Yes, please. The basic utility of cryogenic engine is to increase the amount of fuel which can be carried and to reduce the volume of the launch vehicle, because liquid fuel, if it is being carried, the similar quantity of the liquid fuel and the similar quantity of the solid fuel, the liquid fuel will have much amount of the volume, so it increases the overall weight of the launch vehicle also. So we solidified the liquid fuel, solidified the fuel, and then we utilize the resultant heat of the launch vehicle system itself to melt the fuel and burn it down, right? That is the basic utility of cryogenic engine. Apart from this, cryogenics, they can help in constancy also. If we compare it with solid propellant, liquid propellant and cryogenic propellant, then solid propellant is something which will immediately provide the thrust, right? Gunpowder is burned, provides the thrust immediately, STPV, right? So it would give a resultant propulsion of the rocket immediately, gone, right? But in the upper stages of the atmosphere, where the launch vehicle has to reach up to a particular destination, you require a constant thrust. So liquid fuel is also burned to provide a constant thrust, then comes out of the atmosphere. The cryogenic then helps to maintain the constancy of the thrust in the later stages of the launch vehicle system, where in the suborbital spaces the dimension of the launch vehicle system is also reduced and the amount of fuel is also higher, so that it can reach up to more higher distances than expected by other launch vehicle systems which utilize solid liquid propulsion like PSLVs. इसरो सीन अभी तो लेटर स्टेज, अभी तो डेवलपमेंट स्टेजेस में है. इसरो सीन अभी आएगा, वो बहुत आगे के फ्यूल सिस्टम्स में है. उसमें अभी ग्रीन प्रोपेलेंट भी अभी पढ़ेंगे. ग्रीन प्रोपेलेंट इसरो इज डेवलपिंग. There are many other things which are coming up. It is just that is to replace the solid propellant also to replace the initial stages of the liquid propellant also. Then we have the Astrosat, the satellite which was sent in September 2015 using PSLV C30. Astrosat is one dedicated astronomy satellite of the ISRO, and is one satellite that looks on to various happenings, just like what is going on with the black hole, what is going on with different types of the stars like neutron stars. That is the utility of this is can be taken up with this Astrosat. Specifically, neutron stars are those types of the stars which are very small stars, which have a circumference of near 30 kilometers diameter, and these stars, they are very dense. They can resemble a very dense material also. So what exactly is the nature of this neutron star, how the star is being converted into a neutron star, the nature of all these, and what exactly is the nature of black hole, understanding the black holes, all these, they can be the basic things which have been evaluated right now using Astrosat. Astrosat is a one of a kind thing because it will have visible, infrared and ultraviolet, all of them, and even X-ray spectroscopy, though infrared is now gone, visible, ultraviolet and X-ray spectroscopy going on constantly, which helps to take pictures in all three different filters or take pictures of a particular area in three different ranges also, right? So it is useful. That's why this is important. This is one of a kind that ISRO has sent all these three different types of the spectroscopes in a singular satellite. That's why this Astrosat is also important. Also, it is the first dedicated satellite. Right. Apart from Astrosat, in 2021, we will also come with Aditya L1. Aditya L1 would be one payload which would be sent into Langarian points. The Langarian point 1. There are 5 Langarian points. Langarian points are those where the resultant force applied over a particular substance or any particular object in the outer spaces is 0. That is, the resultant force applied by the gravitation of Sun, Earth and the Moon is constantly 0. That is a Langarian point. There are 5 Langarian points. Aditya would be sent in the first Langarian point, which is between Sun and the Earth system. Right. This will help to evaluate the happenings of the solar corona, the surface of the Sun, how it is changing, what is the nature of solar corona, will also help to understand the basic nature of the solar fluxes which are created during events like sunspots, etc. Right. So that would be the nature of Aditya L1, which would be seen post 2021. In 2022, we will also come up with Gaganyaan. Gaganyaan would be the futuristic mission of ISRO, where we will try to send manned aircraft, for which the reusable launch vehicle technology is also being developed, and the crew ejection mission has also been taken place, where if during the launch of the reusable launch vehicle, if there is certain problems, then the crew or the astronauts, they can be ejected out of the launch vehicle system. For that, CARE mission has been taken up. So reusable launch vehicle technology demonstrator RLV-D3 was seen in 2017, then rather in 18, then development of it has also been seen, and crew re-ejection was also seen in 2018 under the CARE mission. Now we are also developing the ramjets and the scramjets, two technologies which can be the air breathing propulsion system. One can be the supersonic, another one can be the hypersonic technology, on which at 3 Mach and 6 Mach respectively, the air can be breathed in, which would create a resultant propulsion in the aircraft, so that it can create a air compression and the aircraft is pushed out or pushed forward because of the compression created onto the compression created at 6 Mach speed with the air itself. That is scramjet, right? At 3 Mach, that is ramjet. So ramjet, scramjet, RLV 3D, and then the CARE mission. All of these, these are certain initiatives which have been taken up for futuristic Gaganyaan. That would be Gaganyaan 2022. That is being taken up. Then the ISRO conducts the pad abort test. The pad abort test is also associated with CARE mission and RLV3 or the Gaganyaan, where we can abort the mission during any kind of the dangers associated during flight. Then polarimetry Doppler's weather radar. The polarimetry Doppler's weather radar, it is as S-band radar, which performs at 2.7 to 2.9 gigahertz, and it is important to improve the weather predictions, and it can understand and detect the weather phenomena up to 500 kilometers. So exact prediction of the weather can be seen with this, the polarimetry Doppler weather radar. Apart from this, the synthetic aperture radar also we have discussed. The synthetic aperture radar, which can be useful in 3-dimensional radio fields also, which will also help to improve the weather forecasting, which is being currently developed under NISAR mission of NASA ISRO, synthetic aperture radar development mission also. NISAR, that is also one thing, that is for synthetic aperture radars, right? Then ISRO launches 2 UK based satellites. These 2 UK based satellites are NOVASAR and S14. NOVASAR is for forest mapping and understanding the ice cover, and S14 is an optical Earth observation satellite, which is for surveying of the resources, environment monitoring, etc. Right. Then we have the IRNSS 1I, which would replace IRNSS 1A, which is now defunct, which is utilized for NAVIC, right? Navigation in Indian constellation. Now we have, so even this I has came down, we have 7 satellites in the navigation. The 8th one is to be come up, that is IRNSS 1H is to come up. That would create 8 constellation or 8 satellites in the constellation. Right now, 7 satellites, 3 of them are geostationary, 4 of them are geosynchronous, which are utilized, which will help to develop the regional navigation system for the Indian constellation. Right. Then the sounding rocket RS-300, the sounding rocket. Sounding rockets are those which are not able to reach up to the orbital paths which are near 1000 kilometers above the Earth's surface. Sounding rockets are those which can reach up to 800 or 900 kilometers into the trajectory and then comes back to the Earth's surface itself, right? Basic mechanism of development of the ballistic missiles also is dependent on sounding rocket systems. Okay, so these R300 sounding rocket system, it was launched for atmospheric understanding, right? It has created atmospheric data. It has created refined models used for tropical weather prediction, right? Under the SOREX program. SOREX word can be important. Sounding Rocket Experiment Program, SOREX. That word can be important. Then laser interferometry based gravitational wave project, LIGO. We have discussed this thing in detail also. Gravitational waves are small hindrances which are created all across the universe in a barrier of space and time. These are ripples in the space and time which are created by heavy mass objects or heavy mass collisions also, which will help to understand the nature of universe and happenings in the non-observable part of the universe also. Beyond the black hole, the pseudo horizon which is being created, beyond that what would happen, that can be predicted using gravitational waves, because gravitational waves, they are created and they do not diminish, rather they travel just like light. They have the velocity equivalent to the velocity of light and are not deflected by any electrical and magnetic field also. So they are produced and they remain constant in the universe. Just like light remains constant, the gravitational waves also remain constant and they travel in space and time, right? So with space and time, we'd be able to understand how is the nature, or what exactly is the changing nature of the universe with time. That can be understood. For that, the LIGO project started. There are 3 LIGO interferometers. Interferometer is the instrument which can help to detect the gravitational waves. The LIGO project was started with National Academy of Sciences in USA. There are 2 observatories in USA. Now the 3rd one under the LIGO project is in India, which would be established in Hingoli district of Maharashtra, right? Then GRACE FO mission, NASA GFZ. The GRACE FO mission was launched on May 22, will continue to work for tracking the Earth's water movement to monitor changes in the underground water storage. That is important. GRACE mission to understand what is the nature of changing underground water. These discoveries will provide a unique view of the Earth's climate and have far-reaching benefits to society and the world's population. Right? That's why this GRACE mission can also be important. Then communication satellite GSAT-31, which has an improved Ku band transponder capacity and is being placed in geostationary orbit, and it is for at least 15 years. It can be useful. It is designed by ISRO, and it is the 40th communication satellite in the range of GSAT and INSAT ranges, where it can be useful for communication. Specifically, if you look up to the last point in the note, it will provide DTH television services, connectivity to VSATs for ATM, stock exchange, digital news gathering, and e-governance applications. These could be the basic utility of GSAT-39. Hyperspectral imaging. In many spectra, if the imaging can be done, that becomes hyperspectral imaging. This is to be used for a wide range of applications like monitoring the environment, crops, looking for oil and minerals, military surveillance, etc. That has been taken. ISRO is planning to launch a full-fledged Earth observation satellite that would be called as Hyperspectral Imaging Satellite, HISIS. HISIS has a critical chip called as Optical Imaging Detector Array also, which is indigenously developed by ISRO. Right. Allow ISRO to enter into a domain of operational hyperspectral imaging from Earth orbit. These could be important missions from India. Apart from this, Chandrayaan-2 is to come up in 2019. Chandrayaan-2 will have two different components. One would be the lander, another one would be the rover, another one would be the orbiter. So rover, lander, orbiter, these would be the three major components of the Chandrayaan-2 which is to be sent. It is expected to be sent using GSLV Mk3D. Right, now this rover, lander and orbiter, all these three would be indigenously developed in India and will help to understand the basic nature of the Earth's, we can say Earth's surface, rather Moon's surface also, understand the minerals which are present, and also it will help to trace out energy prospects associated with Moon, so that Moon can act as one of the halt point in the futuristic interplanetary observators which we can send, or the rovers which we can send, so that it can be a refueling station. We will send things from Earth to Moon, then from Moon we will harvest energy, and then we will send it into other interplanetary spaces, so that it can be a path where we can increase the velocity of the space travel and we can decrease the time of the space travel also. Right. So for that, this Chandrayaan-2 can be a futuristic mission or an important mission. Right. Then important ones in this NASA's mission. The second one, ICESat-2, Ice, Cloud and Land Elevation Satellite, which is developed, which is sent to understand and to measure the ice sheet elevation and the sea ice thickness. ICESat-2. It will utilize laser altimeter system or ATLAS with 10,000 laser pulses per second. Right. The launch of ICESat-2 took place in 15 September 2018. Then Aspire mission, third one, Advanced Supersonic Parachute Inflation Research to test supersonic parachute that will help NASA's space exploration mission to land on Mars. Whether a particular spacecraft which is at supersonic speed, a parachute can be ejected and things can be brought down to the surface. For that, this Aspire mission is useful. That is to be targeted for the next Mars mission of ISRO, of NASA rather. There are many Mars missions. The current one is MAVEN. Right. Before that, we had a fleet of Curiosity also. Right. Then the New Horizons. New Horizon is a project. Fifth one, it is a project to understand the interplanetary space, which is an interplanetary space probe and helps to understand the Kuiper belt objects. So in this term can be important, Kuiper belt. It is a belt of asteroids and meteoroids outside the solar system or just adjoining the solar system. If this is the solar system, then there is an accumulation of cosmic dust also, asteroids also over here. This belt is termed as the Kuiper belt. Near Kuiper belt we have Pluto, Uranus also, which is just near Kuiper belt. So we are trying to understand this Kuiper belt, different Kuiper belt objects also. For that, this New Horizons mission is targeted. Apart from this, we had that Juno mission sent to Jupiter, which was also observing onto, or which has passed through this Kuiper belt object also. The missions which are sent to Cassini or Cassini-Huygens mission, which is sent for Saturn, that has also passed by this objects which are near Kuiper belt. Apart from this, to understand the Kuiper belt object, the New Horizons has came down. It has taken a flyby study of the Pluto system in 2015, and a secondary mission to flyby and study one of the more Kuiper belt objects in the decade to follow, which would be in 2019. Right. For that, it is there. Then Ultima Thule, MU-69, under the New Horizons spacecraft, certain things have been objected in Kuiper belt, and the object which has been taken up is Ultima Thule, is located in the Kuiper belt. The second point in the note or specifications, Ultima Thule is located in the Kuiper belt in the outermost region of the solar system, beyond the orbit of Neptune, and it measures approximately 30 kilometers in diameter and is irregularly shaped. Is reddish colored, probably caused due to exposure of the hydrocarbons to sun from billions of years. Right? If we can understand these, we would also be able to understand the basic nature of formation of the planets, the basic nature of transformation of the masses in the space or in the universe also. Right? That can be one thing. Then ORIS-REx, it is targeted to take up carbonaceous samples from the near Earth orbit and return the sample to Earth for detailed analysis. ORIS-REx has reached to proximity of Bennu in December 2018. That's why it was into news, ORIS-REx, and it began analyzing its surface for a target sample. Right. Then we have this NASA's Voyager 2 spacecraft. The Voyager 1 and Voyager 2 spacecraft launched in 1977. Their mission was to explore Jupiter and Saturn and go beyond to the outer planets of our solar system. Right. So this Voyager 1 and 2 has been sent. Voyager 2 was launched 16 days before its twin Voyager 1 on a trajectory which took longer to reach Jupiter and Saturn, but enabled further encounters with Uranus and Neptune. Right. Right now, Voyager 2 is now on its extended mission to study the outer reaches of the solar system and has been operating for 40 years. The probe left the heliosphere for interstellar spaces on November 2018. That's why it was into news, the Voyager 2. Right. Over the Voyager, we also have the Voyager disk, which have a golden disk of the Voyager spacecraft. The golden disk of the Voyager has sounds coming from Earth. Right, which has sounds from in 40 different languages also, sounds of different artists performing also. Right, that was on Voyager golden disk. Right, then we had this Dawn mission, page number 28 if you look up to. Dawn mission is to understand the protoplanets Vesta and Ceres. That has also been into news. And also the seismic experiment for interior structure, SEIS. That is, seismic waves are to be created to understand the internal structure of Mars, right? Martian surface. For that, the SIES is being taken. Then this Cassini-Huygens spacecraft. which is targeted to study the planet Saturn and its system, including its ring and the natural satellites. Right. It has understood the basic ocean of methane near the Saturn and the Saturn's satellites, and it is trying to understand the overall nature of these methane and the oceans of methane and its complete structure. That's why this has been important. Cassini-Huygens. Apart from this, Saturn-based things, observation has also been seen by Pioneer 11, which was the first one which has passed by Saturn. Then Voyager 1 and Voyager 2 have also passed by. One has passed by Jupiter, another one has passed by Saturn. Now this Cassini-Huygens is dedicated to Saturn's satellites and the basic rings of the satellites also. Right. The findings of the Huygens have received existence of Earth-like geographic features, Great Lakes of liquid nitrogen, gas on Titan surface. Titan, one of the important satellites of Saturn. Right. Then we have this MAVEN spacecraft. Next one, MAVEN is important for a Mars-based rover which has been sent by NASA parallel to the Mars orbiter mission. The basic utilities of MAVEN has been to understand the loss of volatiles from the surface, from the space of Martian atmosphere, understand how that volatile substances, even water substances, they have evaporated from the Mars atmosphere. Then the current rates of escape of neutral gases to the space, why these neutral gases they are being sent into the space, and if that replicates on Earth, what are factorial changes with Mars and what are factorial changes with Earth. That can also be understood with the MAVEN spacecraft. Then the Hubble Space Telescope, which is one of the largest telescope which is to come up, which has been important for the observatory in ultraviolet, visible and near infrared regions of electromagnetic spectrum, has also been into news recently. Then this Lunar Gateway Space Station. The Lunar Gateway Space Station, which is an exploration campaign which will help to create a gateway on the moon. The same thing that ISRO is also targeting, that moon can be one step towards reaching on to outer skirts of the space, where moon can be the initial halt point. So for that itself, the Lunar Gateway Space Station is to be created. That will help in establishment of US presence in the cislunar spaces and deployment of a US-led gateway. Together with Space Launch System and the Orion, the gateway is the central to advancing and sustaining human space exploration goals. Right, that can also be important. So this gateway station. Then Spitzer telescope, which was launched in 2003 to study the universe in infrared. Right, it is one of the great observatories, 5 great observatories. Spitzer is also one of them. Chandra X-ray Observatory, the Hubble Space Telescope, Gamma Observatory also. Apart from this, the Spitzer telescope is also of those 5 great observatories which have been sent. Right, and our own planetary backyard and different types of the planets and stars, they can be understood because of this. Right, it has been into news because of detection of TRAPPIST-1. The space telescope has also assisted the discovery of planets beyond our solar system, including the detection of 7 Earth-sized planets orbiting in the star TRAPPIST. TRAPPIST is a range of stars, and there are 7 planets which have been spoken as the Earth-like planets, or the TRAPPIST planets. The Spitzer telescope has been important in understanding that. Right. So these are certain important of NASA. Then of other agencies, if we look up to, then this Sentinel-3B, European Space Agency, which is European Space Agency's Earth observation satellite dedicated to oceanography. Sent in April 2018, Sentinel for oceanography. Then Soyuz rocket carrying Russian, American and Canadian astronauts. It has took off from Kazakhstan to reach its orbits. It was meant to reach up to International Space Station, the last point into this. And this is why, because the space shuttle, which was earlier used as a reusable launch vehicle system to reach up to International Space Station, has now retired in 2011. So Soyuz was into news. Then Emirates Mars mission. After the India's Mars orbiter mission, Emirates is also planning to send up an orbiter towards Mars in 2021 to come up. Right, by 2020, the launch things and everything would be created. So Emirates Mars mission, that would be one of a kind, also started by United Arab Emirate or UAE. Right, then mini space elevator test in Japan. Japan is trying to send in space elevators. Space elevator, or the basic phenomena or the basic understanding of the space elevator, if we look up to, then it would be that we can send in a near Earth object in the LEO, that is lower Earth orbit, which is between 200 to 2000 kilometers above the Earth's surface. From here, we will have a heavy payload which is sent over here. From this payload, it would be a geostationary payload. From this payload, we will drop down one cable, which would then be hinged over here near surface, right? It would be hinged near surface, and then using this cable, we will send in a small box. This is a very small box right now for experiment, right? If this goes fine, if we are able to understand or we are able to cut down the hurdles which practically goes down with this particular cable, we'd be able to develop an experiment where space-based elevator can be seen. If space-based elevators can be created, then obviously we'd be able to cut down the cost of launch vehicles, obviously, right? We'd be able to send in the payloads. अब ये space base से यहाँ तक भेजो, फिर यहाँ से international space station तक भेज दो, फिर वहाँ से launch करो, orbital spaces में भेज दो, या यहाँ से international space station से लो और objects को moon की तरफ भेजो. So it would be a long duration thing if it can be created, right? But there could be hurdles. One is weather, climatic phenomena, atmospheric phenomena can be hurdles also. One thing, the stability of this cable, the stability of the complete flight, the time duration of this particular flight, and ejection and re-entry of this particular object into the Earth's atmosphere, which would involve much amount of the friction from the Earth's atmosphere. That all could be one particular thing, right? So all these things, for to understand or to harvest possibilities of it, the space elevator test has been created by Japan. It has launched a box which is just 6 centimeter long, 3 centimeters wide and 3 centimeters high, right? 6 into 3 into 3 box has been launched into space, or they are trying to send in this thing. That is the experimental thing. Then Hayabusa 2 of Japan. Hayabusa 2 is a basic mission which is initiated by JAXA to take up asteroid samples, right? And this it has taken samples of asteroid for 2.5 years, and in December 2019 it has started to come back, right? That's why this earlier in Hayabusa 1 we have taken samples of asteroid by JAXA. Now by 2019 we will send up Hayabusa 2, and in 2020 it will come back. That's why it is important, right? Then GAIA mission of European Space Agency to understand the map of galaxy Milky Way, GAIA, right? Then Meerkat radio telescopes, which is to be established as the biggest radio telescope of a kind in southern hemisphere. Meerkat, that can be important. Then the first wind sensing satellite, which is the Aeolus satellite of European Space Agency, the first wind sensing satellite dedicated to map Earth's wind on the global scale. What are the wind directions, localized and the global winds? Understanding that would be Aeolus. For that it can be important. Then the Bangabandhu satellite of Bangladesh. Bangladesh has also came up with the first geostationary satellite, right? हाँ, नाम से गरीबी नहीं झलकती, नाम से उनका पेट्रियोटिज्म झलकता है, राइट, बंग बंधु, राइट. So we must not criticize that thing. They have their own agenda of it. The Hongyan project in China, project in China, which is aiming Google right now for internet service providers, for being an internet service provider worldwide. Right, it is targeting to launch many satellites. Nearly 150 satellites are to be launched into space to provide wireless high-speed internet, which would be rival to Google. Right. So Hongyung project. Then Beidou navigation system. Beidou 1 is the regional navigation system of China. It is to be converted into a global navigation system. Then Chang'e 4, first probe to explore dark side of the moon. Dark side of the moon is the farther side of the moon where we do not reach up to, right? The nearer side of the moon is, we have the Gale crater. When the moon is near, the Gale crater is visible, or the nearer side of the moon is visible, we go for experiment over here. The farther side of the moon is, if this is Earth, moon revolves around sun, moon revolves around Earth like this, right? So it would be apogee, then perigee. So this is the farther side of the moon. Okay, reach up to this. So this side is nearer side of the moon, where we have the Gale crater. Right, reaching on to this side of the moon is Chang'e. Understanding the farther side of the moon, or the darker side of the moon, or the, which is far less visible, is Chang'e 4. Right, which would be through Long March 3B rocket. Then we have the Kuiyo relay satellite to explore far side of the moon also. The satellite would be Kuiyo relay in Chang'e. Then U22 of the China, which is a lunar probe also, right? U2, Kuiyo and Chang'e 4. These are all related to the farther side of the moon project. Then China to launch artificial moon to light up night sky also. It would create a very large LED based lighting system which can be launched, right, and which can help to provide light during night to a complete city, right. So it would look like there are two different moons. One is the natural and the other one is the artificial moon, right. So that has been taken up. Scientists are hoping to hang this moon, man-made moon above the city of Chengdu, right, in southwestern China, right. Names are typical. Okay, for us Chengdu is typical, for them Hyderabad is also typical, right, not a problem. Then Point Nemo, next thing, quickly we can look up to, it is the most remote place on Earth, and it has been seen as a crash site of the defunct satellites. That's why it was into news. Nearly 260 to 300 satellites have been dumped into this. The overall area was into news because of satellites dumped and the problems associated to the dumping up of the satellites in this particular region. Then exoplanet. The exoplanet which is being seen in the constellation of Cassiopeia. Right, that's why it was into news. A new exotic planet outside our solar system has been seen. The planetary system is Cassiopeia, right, which does not have a massive core of iron, but it is rich in calcium, aluminium along with magnesium and silicon. That's why it has been into news. A super Earth, it is larger in size than Earth. It can be 1.5 times the Earth size also. That's why it is also called as super Earth. And it is for the first time that the Indians have seen this thing, which is near 600 light years away from the Earth. So even if we'll go for exploration today, we'll come back 1200 years after, right? So the super Earth is something which is in Cassiopeia. The terms can be important. What do you understand by this term? Cassiopeia, it is constellation which is 600 light years away from the Earth system, has been discovered by the Indian researchers. This is first time we have done it, that's why it is important. Then Galaxy Proto Supercluster Hyperion. Hyperion protocluster is the largest and the earliest known proto supercluster. which is 5,000 times the mass of Milky Way. Right? It was discovered in 2018 by analyzing the redshift of 10,000 objects observed in Chile. Right? So Hyperion is a large galaxy which is 5,000 times larger than Milky Way, and redshift is something when objects or celestial objects, they move away from each other, then the wavelength which is being received is shifted towards the red side of the wavelength. If they are at two different other locations, they are shifted towards the redder side. That becomes the red shift. Red shift denotes that two different objects, they are continuously shifting, or their position is changing, or there is an expansion in the distance between these two objects. That is why red shift is being defined. Right? So while defining this red shift, Hyperion was seen, which was 5,000 times bigger than the overall galaxy Milky Way. Right? Next thing, Einstein's theory of relativity. Einstein's theory of relativity has spoken of that things in universe, they are bounded by a barrier of space and time, and under this it is also been taken right now that the galaxy and everything, star, planetary system, all these things, they are actually hanging just like they are hanging like elevator in a cushion or in something which is created by gravity. If gravity exists, then everything is hanging like elevators because of this gravity. That's what Earth. That's what is being said, that Earth is free falling elevator in the sun's gravity. Right? Earth is free falling elevator in the sun's gravity. So it is falling constantly in the sun's gravity. This is something not very new. This we have understood as a free fall of any particular object around heavenly body. It remains in a free fall. It tries to go away from the gravity and is being pulled back again from the by the gravity of the heavenly body around which it is moving. So if it is sun, then it is Earth. It falls freely, right, in space and time, and is being brought back. So it is just a free fall of the Earth, just like an elevator. That is what is being understood in this issue. Then Einstein's ring, 10th issue. Einstein's ring is something when, if we have a background light and a galaxy comes into the mid, right, a very large celestial object comes into the mid, which is dense enough, and we have a background light coming up. So it looks like light is coming like this or from all sides. That also defines that if we look up to the shape of a galaxy, if this is the shape of the galaxy and this is the background light appearing, then it looks like that the light coming from galaxy is constantly changing. It forms a ring where the exact place of the galaxy cannot be defined, whether it is here, 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 right? Because of this ring, in the spectral analysis, because of this ring which is created, inside this we have the galaxy. We usually get confused by the light coming from the galaxy and by the light coming from the background. So it looks like a ring that appears. Why it is termed as Einstein's ring? Because we understand that this galaxy exists in more than one place together. How it is existing in more than one place together? Because if Einstein's theory is correct, then everything is bounded by space and time. A singular object in the same time cannot exist in two different spaces. That's why it is said that misconception which was created, that galaxies exist in two different spaces at the same time, that is because of a ring created by the background light which is appearing, which is being diffracted over there by the galaxy's presence, right? So this ring of light which is created by the presence of galaxy, which then helps to deviate, or when we started thinking that there is a deviation in the Einstein's principle, is termed as the Einstein's ring, right? Sunspot, we have discussed this thing. Sunspots are the black spots which are seen over the sun's surface, which are created because of electromagnetic disturbances created near the Earth's surface, and because of these electromagnetic disturbances, there are patches which are created. Solar flux increases during a sunspot cycle, which is of 11 years, and during that solar flux, the heat content coming from the sun's surface also increases, right? That is the sunspot cycle. overall. ISRO is planning to, or the institutes like ISER, Kolkata specifically, it is planning to understand the next sunspot cycle, the overall nature of sunspot cycle, which is to be started from 2020. From 2020 to the next 11 years of the cycle, ISER Kolkata would be observing the nature of changes in this sunspot cycle. That's why it was into news also. Next, 13th says that ISRO is planning to mine moon. ISRO is planning to mine moon to understand the gas hydrates which may be present over there, right? Or even the helium which is present. Whether that helium can be harvested, the helium which is present as a hydrated form, whether it can be harvested and can be utilized for energy purposes, whether we can utilize that thing. For that, ISRO is trying to mine moon. That would be with Chandrayaan 2 also. Right. NASA confirms Saturn ring would go in 100 million years. NASA has said that the rings which are formed, or the cloudy rings which are formed in 100 million, they would be gone by 100 million years because of the nature of changes and the cosmic dust which is, or the dispersion of the dust which is created near the rings, right? But we don't have to think about anything because we don't factor into that, right? We will be gone by 100 years itself, right? So we don't have to think about 100 million years. And next time we will think again, or next time we will read it again in current affairs, right? History maybe. Right. Then the new source of neutrino in the space is discovered. Neutrinos, if we speak of, these are those particles which are chargeless and massless also. So they are not deflected. They are produced from large mass-like collisions, or very, very huge mass collisions in the universe, and are not deflected. Their path is not deflected by neither a gravitational field nor by the magnetic field. Larger objects in the space, they produce larger clouds of the neutrinos. A very large cloud of the neutrino has been seen by a supergigantic object which is termed as blazar. A galaxy which is termed as blazar. From this large cloud of the neutrino has been observed. That's why it was into news. This large cloud of the neutrinos, or this neutrino, would now be observed by Indian Neutrino Observatory also, INO, which will have a calorimeter or an iron calorimeter to observe various clouds of the INOs, or the neutrinos rather. We'll have the space station, we'll have the ground station also, we'll have one detection station also. There should be 3 parts of INOs. INO would be placed in the Theni hills of Kerala and Tamil Nadu, right? So INO has, or neutrinos have been discovered. That's why it was into news. It was from blazar, a galaxy with supermassive black hole at its center, and also produces neutrino. That's why it was into news, right? Because from black holes we do not observe light. We observe either gravitational waves or neutrinos. That's why the imprint of it has been seen. Though we have seen a black hole picture also much recently, right? It looks like a ring, a darker spot in light background, right? Then Earth has 3 moons. Now this is something which is not in real. Rather, the other 2 moons are those which are taken up as the cloud of dust, right? Large clouds of dust is being seen, and these clouds of dust are termed as Caudy-Levesky clouds. That you can mark, the term you can mark. What do you understand by Caudy-Levesky clouds? Caudy-Levesky clouds are dust clouds which are present, which are orbiting the Earth's surface, or orbiting the Earth just like moon itself, and they absorb light from sun also, but the overall density is so low that they are not visible also, right? Or they are not visible just like moon. Moon is visible through without a telescope or something. These Caudy-Levesky clouds, they are not visible with naked eye also, right? Because the density is low and the light emitted remains into the background. That's why we do have a cloud, we do have a satellite-like appearance which is orbiting Earth's surface, which may be termed as a moon, but not exactly a moon, but a cloud-like appearance, a cloud of dust, which is termed as Caudy-Levesky cloud. So dust moons or Kordylewski clouds, that term can be important over here. Then Heavenly Palace is a space station which is to be launched by China, right, which is also termed as Tiangong or Heavenly Palace. It will have scientific explorations. It will have a lifespan of 10 years, which can be extended up to another 10 years, so that it can have a 20 years lifespan. It would be much more smaller than ISS, the International Space Station, which would now be gone by 2022. The International Space Station would be gone, and this Tiangong would then act as the alternative of ISS till we do not come up with the other space stations also, right? Then the International Space Station, ISS, is celebrating its 20th birthday, right? And not many birthdays are left for this, right? It has been functional for 20 years now, and the space station was launched by a Russian rocket. It is an habitable artificial satellite in the low Earth orbit, and at an altitude of 330 to 435 kilometers, right? And circles the Earth roughly in 92 minutes and completes 15.5 orbits per day. Is a project of USA, Russia, Japan, Europe and Canada. These 5. Now China would come up with its own, right? Then the Remove Debris program. Remove Debris is a satellite research project which helps to remove the debris of these satellites, right? It was sent into the International Space Station, rearranged and then launched into the orbits or geosynchronous orbits, where it helps to remove the debris of the satellites and will help to place it in orbits which are graveyard orbits. Other terms associated with this could be graveyard orbits, where we keep the space debris. Also the Kessler syndrome, the hindrance in satellite-based communication created due to the debris which are accumulated, right, is Kessler syndrome. The case of making Pluto again a planet. Certain scientists they have created one thing, that the idea of placing Pluto out of the planetary system was, or the decision of it was taken into ways there could be other things which can be evaluated for Pluto, and we can bring back Pluto into the planetary system. Though the reasons for which the Pluto has been kept out of the planetary system: number one, it does not follow the basic orbital paths, right? The shape of the Pluto, or the defined geoid shape of the planets that has been seen, the shape also alters, right? So that the conformatory or the orbital conformatories also keeps on changing. For that only Pluto was kept out of the planetary system earlier. These were 2 or 3 reasons for which Pluto was kept out. Now certain scientists have said that we have taken planetary system or planets based on different other factors also. Not only these 3 factors must be taken, it can be reconsidered. So though there is a division in the scientific community for considering this thing right now, and they are not targeting for this thing that Pluto can be brought back. They have said there is out and we only have 8 planets, not the 9th one, right? Then Icarus, name can be important. Icarus is the farthest star that has been known. Now has been discovered by the Hubble Space Telescope, which is located halfway across the moon, halfway across the universe. At the nearby the center of the universe, we have this Icarus, which is 9 billion years of the exact distance, right? 14.6 billion years that we define as the lifetime of universe based on the explorations or based on the light which we have received. So it is just halfway, 9 billion years or more than halfway is Icarus what we have seen. So we have been able to reach up to those distances or observe the universe up to those distances. That's why it has been important, right? Then cosmic microwave background radiations. CMBR are those radiations which are not exactly produced by a planetary thing or a galaxy thing, but these are those radiations which are the primitive radiations and are present till date. These are fading radiations which are present. Dekho, universe mein nothing can be created nor is destroyed. Energy is not created, neither it is destroyed. Whatever energy was created during the development of the universe, the same type of the energy is present right now, be in a fading form. So that fading form of the energy which was created during the explosion of Big Bang or during the formation of the universe, that radiation is also constantly wandering into the spaces, into the overall stretch of the universe. That radiation does not looks like a radiation appearing from a galaxy, galactic appearances or planetary appearances or the stellar appearances or the star-based appearances, but it looks like a fading radiation, and that fading radiation is constantly received, right? That radiation is termed as CMBR. This CMBR can denote, or this has been taken up as a basis, that since we are receiving CMBR, that's why we can relate it to Big Bang, that yes, Big Bang is something that we have seen. Big Bang is true, Big Bang has taken place, plus post that it is, since the nature of CMBR is constantly fading, so nothing can be created nor destroyed. It is just that the distance which is increasing between the origin of that CMBR and the distance right now to which it is placed. That means the universe is also expanding. So expansion and formation, or Big Bang and expansion of the universe, can be understood using CMBR, also can be understood using the redshift. That can be utilized over here. And the Indian scientists, they have started experiments over CMBR, that's why it was into news. Then the green propellant, which is to be developed by ISRO, so that it can have minimum environmental impact. The name of this green propellant can be glycidyl azide polymer, GAP, as a fuel, and ammonium dinitramide, ADN, as an oxidizer. Rather than LOX, we can have this ADH as an oxidizer, which would be more environment friendly also. Then this 25, Unispace plus 50. It is the 50th year celebration of the Conference on Exploration and Peaceful Uses of Outer Spaces. Right? It is the 50th year of it. The first was in 1968. 50th is in 2019. Right? 3 such conferences have held earlier also. In Vienna 68, first one, second one in 82, and third one in 1999. So Unispace, the name can be important, is an international treaty which is helpful, or an international conference of United Nations for understanding the peaceful uses of outer spaces. Right? Epic planet, which has been discovered by the Physical Research Laboratory of Ahmedabad, and it's been discovered as the first time distant planet revolving around sun-like star. This epic planet is important because it is revolving around sun-like star K2 236b, and the host star is epic star itself. Epic planet and the epic star, discovered by the Physical Research Laboratory of Ahmedabad, that's why it was into news. Interstellar Mapping and Acceleration Probe, IMAP, is a heliophysics mission that simultaneously investigates 2 important and coupled science topics in heliosphere. One is acceleration of energetic particles, and second is interaction of the solar wind and the local interstellar mediums. Right? IMAP is started in 2018. NASA has selected an IMAP team, and it would come up with an IMAP in 2024. This can be an important mission of NASA. Then Atacama Large Millimeter or Sub-Millimeter Array. This is a large telescope which would be established in, which would be utilized rather as a high resolution image of 20 nearby protoplanetary disks depicting the birth of planets, how planets are being formed. That's why this Chile's Atacama Large Millimeter Telescope can be useful, or ALMA can be useful. Right. Then the term HiRISE, that is High Resolution Imaging Science Experiment, which would utilize visible wavelengths of the light, and HiRISE would be one thing that would be used by NASA's Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter, MRO, and this HiRISE has captured many high definition images of the Mars, using the InSight lander, and now it has reached the Mars currently, HiRISE. So HiRISE is a high spectral or high resolution imaging. That's why this term, imaging of Mars, HiRISE. GLONASS is coming up with upgradation. GLONASS is the positioning system used by Russia. Right, it is now coming up with upgradation where GLONASS K2 and GLONASS KM would come up with an upgrades. Right, now Pakistan also had remote sensing satellite launch. One is PRSS-1 and PAK-TES-1A. These are two different satellites which have been launched. Obviously, launch kaun karega? China. Right, PRSS-1 is the first optical remote sensing satellite of Pakistan, which can carry out day and night monitoring, right, which is useful for land and resource surveying, agricultural research, urban construction, monitoring of natural disasters, and to provide remote sensing information. That is for PRSS-1. Right, and second one is PAK-TES-1A, which is indigenously developed. PRSS-1 is developed with the help of China. Second one is PAK-TES is developed by Pakistan, and is a scientific experiment satellite. Right. So these are two different satellites of Pakistan. Then ALMA we have discussed. Then world's fastest man-made spinning object. A man-made spinning object or fastest rotor is being developed. It is a small rotor which is constantly having a 60 million revolutions per second velocity or rotational velocity. And this is made rotational using differential lasers, right? Using lasers, we have rotated this thing. This became the fastest spinning object. This fastest spinning object then will help to understand the nature of different types of the particles which are present, right? That's why it can be futuristically, it can be useful, right? Then INO, we have discussed this thing. Human Space Flight Program, which is also of ISRO, we have discussed this thing. NASA's Kepler Space Telescope retired, Kepler Space Telescope, which was launched in 2009, and it has detected various objects, nearly 2,662 planets till now. And there was a mechanical failure in 2013 though, but now, though it has functioned for another 6 years, now be retired, right? Then Parker Solar Probe mission of NASA, which is a flyby to Venus. Name an object near Venus, right? Then the Goblin, it is a dwarf planet which has been discovered recently. Of this, most important things we can look up to. 40th is important, meteorites found in Rajasthan. There are two meteorites which have been found, one in Mukundpura of Rajasthan, another one is Assam, which were found in 2017. And the one which is found in Mukundpura in 2017, it has been said that these are those meteorites which are formed before Earth also, or the basic development of the Earth planetary patterns. That's why it is a carbonaceous meteorite, one of the most primitive type, right? And will help to understand the nature of origin of life also, because there are two things related to origin of life. One is the chemical origin of life. Chemical origin of life says that life has originated on Earth because of combination of various chemicals, right? Super chemicals. Second also says that life on Earth never originated, it was brought down because of a meteorite, right? So if this theory is also true, whether there are many theories which has been spoken of, though we know that we understand everything, or the experimental proofs have shown that it is chemical evolution, but there could be another theory which can be proven also because of this meteorite. If life has came down, so if life was available with meteorite, then with these type of the meteorites, life-like or lifelike things, they can also be available, or carbonaceous aspects of life over these meteorites if they are seen, then it can be important. That's why this Mukundpur is important. Then Unnati 41, which is Unispace Nano Satellite Assembly and Training Program. Under this Unnati, which is to be held by ISRO, representatives coming from different countries specifically 45 countries, they would be trained with development of the satellites and the nanomaterials utility into the nano satellite development. It would be a training program given to officials of or candidates of 45 countries, right? Which would run through 3 different sessions. That is Unnati, training of satellite development, right? Then Walkatite 44 can be important. Walkatite is a new material which has been discovered from a meteorite in Russia, right? This Walkatite is composed of substances like vanadium nitrate. Though the amount of this Walkatite in the meteorite was very low, so what exactly is the nature of it, or what exactly is the complete property of it, we are not able to develop or understand that thing. But this new material, Walkatite, has been seen with meteorites. That's why it was important. Then 45, the Space Activities Bill of 2017. The Space Activities Bill of 2017 will help to develop the private space operators or the private projects of the space operators. But any project which is associated with harvesting space technology or harvesting space utilities has to be licensed first. Any organization going for any activity related to space sciences must be given a license first. If the license is not being given, then penalties can be imposed. These penalties can reach up to 2 crores, or the penal penalties can also be created to organizations. So number 1, non-transferable license would be given. Government will maintain a register of all these space objects which are being sent. It would also provide professional and technical support for commercial space activities and ensure safety and requirement and supervise the conduct of every space activity in India, right? If the person undertakes any commercial space activity, imprisonment up to 3 years or a fine more than 1 crores, which is now up to 2 crores, the fine can be made over a particular organization, right? That is the Space Activities Bill. Then 47, GRACE mission, we have discussed this thing. GRACE mission is targeted towards understanding the basic nature of water available underground. So to understand water available underground, GRACE mission, that's why it is important. Then GOFIN 11. GOFIN 11 is the 6th GOFIN series which is launched by China in 2019. GOFIN is a high resolution satellite which would be used as an optical remote sensing satellite, right? That's why it was into news. Sun synchronous orbit is also into this thing. Sun synchronous orbit are those type of orbits which always resemble the time point of sun at a particular area over Earth, right? That means if it is reaching at morning 7 o'clock to a particular point, so 7 o'clock in every point on Earth, right? Because moon का sun का 7 o'clock हर जगह पे timeline के साथ differ करता जाएगा, तो so the sun synchronous orbits are placed with a particular state of sun over the Earth's surface. A particular state of sun, the state of sun at 7 o'clock, then 7 o'clock over Delhi, 7 o'clock over Karachi, 7 o'clock over Middle East, 7 o'clock over the western part of the Earth, in this way. So 7 o'clock all around the Earth, it would be synchronous to that, right? So that type of these satellites are sun synchronous orbits, which would be an optical remote sensing satellite, that is GOFIN. So these are certain things related to space technology. Now quickly, important things in defense and miscellaneous things. The important aspects of this we can discuss. Just 20-30 minutes more. Would it go? Quickly we can look up to these things, right? Because majority of these things now, they are more of factual things which are associated. So at least we can have a brief discussion wherever it is required. The Prithvi series of the satellites, missiles, satellites. There are different types of the missiles which have been developed by India according to the type, launch mode, range, propulsion and the guidance system which have been provided, right? Of these, the major missiles that we can look up to in India, Prithvi, Prithvi 1 was developed in 1988, which is a liquid fueled surface to surface missile. Then we have Prithvi 2 also and Prithvi 3 also, which is the naval version of Prithvi 2. Right. One is 150 kilometers, another one is 350 kilometers. These are two ranges of the Prithvi which are available. Then we have the Agni satellite, which is a nuclear capable ballistic missile. Right. Major series of Agni, Agni 1, which was tested in development by 1983, has a range of 700 kilometers. Agni 2, 2000 to 2500 kilometers. Agni 3 has a range of 3500 kilometers. Agni 4 is an advanced version of Agni 3 only, which has a range of 3500 kilometers, but can reach up to a particular target in 20 minutes. Ballistic missile only, right? And then we have the Agni 5, which is intercontinental ballistic missile, which can go beyond 5000 kilometers, right? So these are 5 classes of Agni. Then we have Akash, which is interceptor range of the missile, which can reach up to 30 kilometers, air, surface to air. Then Nag, Nag is the third version, anti-tank missile, right, which can be surface to surface or which can be used to hit different types of the tank missiles, right, or the different types of the tanks rather. Then anti-tank guided missile system, MPA TGM. This is the third generation missile system, which can strike a target of 2.5 kilometers. It is fire and forget principle. You can fire it and it can help to add as an anti-tank guided missile, right? Nag and this one, ATGM. Then we have Trishul also. Trishul is a short range surface to air, and it can be aircraft jammer or aircraft, it can be interceptor also, which is used by naval, right? Akash, and this Akash is also interceptor, though interceptor, that is for missile to missile interception. This Trishul is aircraft, against the aircrafts, right? It can reach up to 9 kilometers now, Trishul. Then of this, the important ones that we can look up to, Nirbhay, 15 number, subsonic missile, which is an ancillary to BrahMos range. Right, BrahMos has 350, Nirbhay can reach up to 1000 kilometers difference. This is a cruise missile system. Then we have the Prahar also, which has been seen in 2018. Prahar is a surface to surface missile with a range of 150. It has high maneuverability, acceleration and accuracy. Then Indian Air Force also has Astra. Astra is beyond visible range air missile system, which can be launched from an aircraft, right? Majorly kept over Sukhoi aircraft systems. Astra can reach up to 20 kilometers at one go, right? It is single stage, has solid fuel. Astra, it can be useful, air to air also. Then Pinaka. Pinaka is a rocket launcher, or which can launch 12 rockets at a time. Earlier it was 8, now it is 12 with Pinaka Mach 2 also. 12 rockets at a time within 44 seconds, 44 to 45 seconds it can launch 12 rockets at a time. That's why Pinaka is important. Now we have the Pinaka Mach 2 also, which has came out. In Pinaka 1 we were able to reach up to 40 kilometers. The rockets were able to reach up to 40 kilometers. Now in Pinaka 2 the rockets are able to reach up to 70 kilometers from the launch, right? That's why this can be important. Then there are certain missile systems which are to be procured from Russia, which is the S-400 fleet of the missiles, which is to be procured from Russia. S-400 would be one missile which can be an intermediate anti-aircraft missile, and this missile S-400 has been taken up as something which is the complete protector of the sky in the global scenario. S-400 can launch 4 missiles at a time of differential capabilities. One of 400 kilometer, second one of near 200 or near 250 kilometers, third one is 120 kilometer, and the fourth one is near 40 kilometers. These 4 missiles they can come up. That's why this 400. This is an advanced version of S-300, the one which was designed by Russia. This S-400 is to be procured, and the committee for procurement of this S-400 was made, has cleared, or there were problems in 2018. That's why it was also into news, S-400. And now from January 2019, it has been said by Russia that this missile would be given in the stipulated time of between October to November 2019 to India. So India will have this S-400 missile system also, which would again be an improved version of it. Then other things into this, the advanced towed artillery gun system, ATAGS. The towed artillery gun system is a large gun which can fire many payloads at a time, right? And this is jointly developed by DRDO and Tata Power and Bharat Forge for Kalyani Group. These are 3 organizations which have developed, and this towed artillery gun system, it can send in the objects up to 48 kilometers, which is much more advanced now. And earlier we had targets which can reach up to 9 kilometers maximum, or we have improved up to 18 kilometers. Right now this is something where artilleries can be fired up to 48 kilometers. Right. So border se 48 kilometers tak wahan tak it can be useful. Right. हाँ, वाघा बॉर्डर से लाहौर तो पहले ही पड़ जाएगा. हाँ, लाहौर तो 30 किलोमीटर में, लाहौर के उस तरफ भी कर सकते हैं हम लोग. रखो वाघा पे, और फिर वहां से भी आएगा हालांकि. Right. So this advanced anti-artillery gun system, towed means it can be erected over differential platforms, right? It can be erected over different platforms, or it is erected over platform. That's why it is towed artillery gun. Then we have this Rustam. Rustam 2 has came up. Rustam is the drone used by the defense systems, right? And Rustam is a drone which is directly used for monitoring, surveying, and it can be a direct warfare. It is a drone, unmanned aerial vehicle. Now they have came up with Rustam 2 also, right? The important thing is Rustam 2 is capable of carrying different combination of the payload. That is one thing. And the UAV, it can also be important for having synthetic aperture radar, electronic intelligence system, and situational awareness of the payloads. That's why this Rustam 2 has been important, right? Then we have this Varsha, ICGS Varsha, and this Vijay also. These are Indian Coast Guard vessels which are useful for Coast Guard. They have been developed under 90M project. 90M project is development of the offshore vehicles or the patrol vehicles, of which this Varsha has been inducted in 2018, and this Vijay is also one of the important one. Varsha is the 5th one which has been brought down. We have to bring up 6 Coast Guard patrol vehicles under 98M project also, and of this the second one is Vijaya, the 5th one is Varsha in this. These are the names of it. The important thing is such type of the vessels, they can reach up to 5,000 nautical miles at a speed of 26 nautical miles, right, per hour. These are important patrol vehicles which are to be used by the Coast Guards, Varsha and Vijay, right. Then we have this Chakra. Chakra is a submarine which is an Aquila class submarine. Aquila class submarines are high powered or medium range nuclear submarines, right? Nuclear powered submarines. Apart from this Aquila class, we have the Arihant class of the submarines also, which are the nuclear powered submarines also, right? Nuclear submarines also. And we have the Scorpion class of the submarines also, which are diesel motor generator based submarines, right? So diesel, Arihant and Aquila class. This Aquila class of the submarine, it is being brought into lease or in lease from Russia, right? So we had Chakra, earlier, then Chakra 2 also. Now Chakra 3 is to come up for a 10 years lease in India. If this Chakra comes up, then the utility of the submarines can be important. This is a medium range nuclear reactor powered. It can be powered for 100 by 190 megawatt nuclear reactor and is operational at deep and shallow waters, right? That is Akula or Chakra. So for this, it can be important because sonars can be placed over this, and it is one of the quietest submarine across the globe. So if it has been brought or Chakra is brought, then it can be useful for the stability or maritime stability in the Southeast Asia, where China is trying to place up the string of pearls and all that. So India's submarine capability is something which is important now, right?
Why is it written that it is the only nuclear powered submarine? Only
Arihant class nuclear powered of the medium range, उसमें पूरा है. जो हमारे पास Arihant class है वो lower ranges है, lower grade है, medium grade है, higher grade है. So it is the only of the Akula class. Then we have the Scorpion submarine programs, which is INS Karanj. Right. The first one was Calvary. Right. These Scorpion class, which is a France designed diesel motor based. These diesel motor based also have the air breathing propulsion systems. The air breathing propulsion systems does not require a snorkel outside the submarine. Rather, these do not have a snorkel which emits or which takes in the oxidizer for burning in the diesel. Rather, they do not have a snorkel, they have an oxidizer tank inside. So once the batteries run over within 4 to 5 days in these type of the submarines, diesel and the oxidizer can be mixed from the tank in a closed loop. That means diesel and oxidizer are mixed and then they are burnt in an engine over here, right, in the submarines, which helps to charge the battery, which is air breathing or air propulsion system of the submarines, which helps this submarine to remain underwater constantly. Otherwise, if the submarine has a snorkel, it has to surface up so that it can take up oxygen to burn down diesel. These classes or these Scorpion classes or the improvement in this or the Calvary classes of these, they have the air breathing systems in the submarine itself. That's why they are important. 6 of these are to be developed. 4 of them are they are known. That one is Calvary, another one is Khanderi, another one is Karanj, another one is to be come up which would become Calvary 2 also, right? So all these Scorpion classes, the earlier Scorpion classes apart from this, the earlier Scorpion class which was procured from Russia was Sindhurashtra, right? Sindhu Astra, right? That was from Russia in the year 2000. Now we have this development of this Scorpion class in the Majgaon dock station in India itself. The maritime boundaries are being defined by UNCLOS, United Nations Law of Sea, Convention on Law of Sea, which defines water around any particular area into 4 categories. One is your internal water, which is under the baseline, any kind of the coastal water near the baseline. Second one is the territorial water, 12 nautical miles from the baseline, where we have all the law, all the permissions which are to be taken up, or all the complete control of the water. Then we have the contiguous zone, which is 12 nautical miles from the territorial waters, right? That is 24 nautical miles from the baseline, where the law can be enforced and the country can also have placement of their protection or the defense assemblies. Then we have this exclusive economic zone, which is 200 nautical miles from the baseline, right? And then we have the archipelagic water, which is all the water near the outside islands, right? So all these can be 4 different zones which have been defined. Then vehicle location tracking devices and emergency button. Vehicle location things, they are GPS based things, where every vehicle which is utilized in public transport must have a location system, just like the cabs now, and an emergency button also, so that if passenger is in any kind of the problem, it can raise alarm also. For that, this has been created, VLT, vehicle location tracking device. which is by Ministry of Road Transport and Highways. Then we have our Tejas also, LCA Tejas, which is a single engine light combat aircraft developed by HAL, right, under the Aeronautics Development Authority of India. LCA Tejas is indigenously developed, single motor, got from GE motor, and is capable of reaching up to the capabilities of MiG-21. And if this comes into place, we would be able to supplement it with the MiG-21, which is the graveyard of the Indian pilots right now, right? And since it is indigenously developed, so the first fleet of 60 aircraft is to be developed by HAL. Initially, in 2008, we have developed 2 of them, then modular of them are to be developed. They have taken a bid in the Royal Malaysian Air Force also. They have taken a bid with South Korean, with the Pakistanis also, and with the Indian also. LCA Tejas has taken a bid with Malaysia. This is one of the important supersonic aircraft which can be utilizable, and the basic utility of Tejas is that Tejas can implement weaponaries of the Russian mades and the Western made also, right? Both the weaponaries can be adjusted in LCA Tejas. That's why it can be important, one of the important. That's why it was into news. और तेजस के बारे में मेरे से ज़्यादा वैसे राहुल गांधी भी जानते हैं, राइट, क्योंकि वो रफेल और तेजस को कंपेयर कर रहे थे, तो वो ही इज़ मोर इंटेलिजेंट देन मी, राइट. वही तो रफेल और तेजस को कंपेयर इसलिए कर सकते हैं क्योंकि कॉस्ट पे कंपेयर कर सकते हैं. टेक्निकली हम उसको कंपेयर नहीं कर सकते हैं, बिकॉज रफेल, ही सेड दैट व्हाई आर यू परचेजिंग रफेल व्हेन यू कैन डेवलप तेजस, राइट? व्हाई आरंट यू गिविंग एनीथिंग टू HAL? Why have you given it to Reliance? He must understand HAL is already overburdened, right? And now the practical thing is HAL started development of LCA Tejas in 1984, right? And it is 2019 and we have only 5 Tejas procured. So the efficiency, the hurdles, it is not the problem with HAL, it is the problem with the hurdles which are being imposed in the indigenous development of the defense equipments. So apart from HAL, if other agencies are being developed or other partners are being brought down, there must not be a problem with that, because that will also open up the routes of FDI directly into the defense sector, right? So it is not about Reliance, it can be anything also, it can be anyone also. Had it been Tata, then it would not have been a problem also, right? Tata पहले से ये सब कुछ कर रहे हैं और टाटा पावर डेवलप भी करता है इसरो के साथ, तो दे वुड नॉट हैव बीन अ प्रॉब्लम फॉर अदर्स, बिकॉज इट इज दैट पर्टिकुलर फेलो, सो देयर इज अ प्रॉब्लम, राइट? बट कंपेयरिंग रफेल विद तेजस इज टेक्निकली a flaw, because Tejas is single engine, single seater light combat aircraft. Rafale is twin engine, 12 seat advanced fighter jet which we'll be having. This is a medium range, this is the light range aircraft. So we cannot compare these two. The light range or the lower medium range are the Sukhoi also, Mirage 200, which is a single engine, single seat, Mirage 2000. Then we have Sukhoi also, which is advanced also. We have MiG-21 also, we have MiG-27 also. These are also light combat aircraft, but MiGs are reaching on to their last stages. We want Tejas as a replacement. Then Sukhoi also, Mirage also is to be replaced. Mirage 2000 will not have the lifetime for more than 15 years now, right? So all these things. So obviously we need to inculcate more of these players so that the resultant costing can be reduced and indigenous development of it can be improved. So it was a problematic thing, right? Or this controversy, there must not be a controversy on, the ideal thing is technically there must not be a controversy on Rafale, right? There could be a cost-based controversy if proven, if it is proven that there has been a cost-based misconception which has been created, like the one which has been created by the political parties. If proven, then the penalties can be imposed or there could be punishments which can be given, but at least such aircrafts must be brought down to improve upon the indigenization or to improve upon the modernization of the Indian Air Force also. Otherwise, we have seen what has happened. Right now with the Pakistanis chasing up with Mirage 2000, one of the MiG-27. MiG-27 was not blasted by Pakistanis. MiG-27 was blasted because of, it is a MiG-27. Right? So, or now if we have a particular problem, then obviously it is required. So, that those things must be improved upon. Then the solid fuel ducted ramjet, SFDR, solid fuel ducted ramjet is an improvement which is to be brought down by the defense research system, the DRDO, and under this ramjet is something which is air propulsion system, where aircraft takes in the air at 3 Mach speeds and develops a compression of the air. When the compression of the air is being developed, the air is ejected and the resultant velocity is given to the aircraft. That is ramjet. Now, a solid fuel propellant in these type of the systems, if it can be brought down, so that has been tested currently by DRDO. That became the solid fuel ducted ramjet. Ramjet associated to a solid fuel propellant also. So that immediate thrust is being given, immediate impulse is being given, and then ramjet working on after that. So it will help to achieve up to higher velocities also. That is SFDR. Then defense innovation hubs, IDEX. IDEX are innovations for defense excellence, which are to be placed under the defense innovation hubs in Tamil Nadu and Maharashtra, right, for indigenization of the defense developments. Then this IDEX program, at least go through with the text of it, it can be important. 32, an indigenous anti-nuclear medical kit. The anti-nuclear medical kit, which is developed by INMAS in Delhi, right, it is one of the kit, or it is one of a kind kit which can be utilized for military, paramilitary and for different other forces, because they are the first one to enter into any particular area if there is a nuclear warfare. Right, there are many things which have been taken up. The first one is the Prussian blue tablet, and which is effective against the radiocesium and the radiothallium, that you can mark. Then an injection of EDTA, ethylene diamine acetic acid, calcium EDTA respiratory fuel also, that helps in chelation therapy during nuclear exposure. And then one more tablet that is being known as Indranil, 150 mg, right, that helps to reduce, that act as a radioprotectant also. And one vessel is also being created, that helps to collect the radioactive urine of any person exposed directly to radioactivity. These are the components of it. This is an anti-nuclear medical kit, right. Then the defense industry corridor. The defense industry corridor is to come up for improvement of the indigenous manufacturing for defense sector in Tamil Nadu, right, which will have mega corridors in Chennai, Hosur, Coimbatore, Salem and Tiruchirappalli. This would be the second defense corridor apart from the one which is there in Uttar Pradesh already. This would be the second corridor to come up in India. Then Bhava Kavach. Bhava Kavach is the bulletproof jacket which is being developed, which is lightest jacket which is developed till date. It is just 6.6 kg jacket which has been developed, other than the 17 kg jacket which is used right now. Right, it is just 6 kg. It uses concealed glass fiber, carbon nanotubes also, which is one of the composite material. Hot pressed glass fiber and carbon nanotubes have been taken up. That's why it is one of the important thing, right. Has been developed by the Mishra Dhatu Nigam Limited of Defense Procurement or Defense PSUs. Bhava Kavach. Then Mission Raksha Gyan Shakti. Raksha Gyan Shakti is one of the important initiative taken up by DRDO for intellectual property right initiatives of defense research laboratories and defense PSUs. For that, Mission Raksha Gyan Shakti has came up. Then Intermediate Range Nuclear Forces Treaty, IRNFT 1987. This treaty was an international treaty between USA and Russia post the Cold World War for disarmament of nearly 2,600 intermediate range missiles, which were the nuclear capable missiles, right. Russia has disarmed, USA has disarmed also, and they have disarmed nearly 2,692 missiles post this particular treaty. This is separate from the New START treaty, which was nuclear disarmament treaty also, right. Now post this, what has happened, they have withdrawn the intermediate range missiles, specifically from Europe. USA has also withdrawn. This Russia has also withdrawn into the from the Russian territories, which is nearby Europe. Ultimately, this has given upsurge for the presence of Chinese missile systems near Russia in the Southeast Asia. This has also proven an upsurge for other countries to come up with missile systems, specifically Iran, etc. They are now coming up. Right. Now there is a problem that Russia wanted to move out of this particular treaty, but the initiative is now being taken up by USA. They have came out of this IMT. Right. Now USA would deploy its intermediate range ballistic missiles in Europe, and in the same way Russia will also deploy its exclave. That is one of the important exclave is Kaliningrad exclave. Kaliningrad exclave is one of the territory controlled by USA, which is bounded by Poland and Serbia over here, right? Which is in the European part, but is an exclave of Russia, which is away from the mainland of Russia in the Europe, but it is one of the important defense exclave of the Russia. So now Russia would come up with this exclave again. That's why it has been one of the problematic thing, or it can be problematic thing, that Europe will now become the battleground again for the nuclear warheads, right, of USA, of Russia, right? And then against China, what this would come up, that can be one particular thing that can unstabilize the peaceful environment or unstabilize the peace in this particular region. That can be one particular problem. That is Intermediate Range Nuclear Forces Treaty of 1987. Right. These are some of the important things with defense. Now, very important topics apart from this. We had elaborate discussion of ICT, BT, defense, space. Now, these are the important things. Now, in nanotechnology, if you look up to, just we'll mark those issues which can be important issues. Then Radix Polarons in nanotechnology 109. These are new types of the quantum matter which are very small scale, and they can be helpful in creating very cold environment which can exist over Earth. Right. Radix Polaron, that you can go through with a reading. Then this one, Cyclone 30, India's biggest cyclotron facility, which has become operational in Variable Energy Cyclone Center of Department of Atomic Energy. That can be important. Then schemes and initiatives, if you come up to. Imprint 2, the name of the scheme and the basic objective of it. Imprint 2, page number 113, that can be important. Just go through with that. BharatNet, we have discussed. National Viral Hepatitis Control Program. Viral hepatitis can be a disease where liver does not respond, or liver starts to fail, or the failure of liver functions is hepatitis. There could be many reasons. One is alcoholic, another one is viral, third one is toxic, fourth one is metabolic. Right, of which the toxic hepatitis is of 5 types: hepatitis A, B, C, D and E, of which hepatitis A and E is the acute type, that is mild type of the hepatitis. Hepatitis A spreads from food and water, E also spreads from food and water, right? B and D, that is just like HIV, it is a chronic disease. जैसे HIV फैलता है वैसे hepatitis B or D फैलता है. And then is hepatitis C, which is also food and water and also medical hepatitis. Because of contaminated medical instruments, hepatitis C can spread, right? So control of this hepatitis C is under this particular program, targeted under this National Viral Hepatitis Control Program. That's why it was into objective. Then the National Biopharma Mission to develop new vaccines, biotherapeutics, biomedical devices. The National Biopharma Mission, which has been developed in India with collaboration of Department of Biotechnology and World Bank. DBT and World Bank, facts, these can be important. For vaccines, biotherapeutics, diagnostics and medical devices. It will develop a center for excellence and skill development, and as well as technology transfer. 11th one, Eggmark online system. Eggmark is one of the important marking or certification pattern driven through Director of Marketing and Inspection. Right. Eggmark is legally enforced, and it comes from the Agriculture Produce Grading and Marketing Act of 1937, which is amended in 1986. That you can mark. These two things can be important. Right. For egg marking of the products, now an online system is being started, that is Eggmark online system. Then World Intellectual Property Organization, WIPO. World Intellectual Property Organization is the supreme coordinating authority for the intellectual property rights in the globe. It has two major treaties. One is World Intellectual Property Organization, Copyright Treaty, and another one is the Performance and the Phonograms Treaty. The Copyright Treaty, which came in 2002, and the Phonograms Treaty also came in 2002. These are two important treaties which have been taken up. These two treaties, for this, India is also one of the member for these two treaties, and under this, the initiatives have been taken up for the copyrights. Right, so two different types of this for two different types of the works which can be taken up. So Copyright Treaty and Phone and Phonograms Treaty. Just go through with the text of this can be important. Then the National Intellectual Property Award 2018 was given to CSIR this year. The World IP Day has also been considered. Right, CSIR currently is 9th in the world as far as the innovation is considered, and 75 in the world amongst all the institutions. Right, so ye achhi baat hai. Then Intellectual Property Rights mascot has also been brought down currently, that is IPR Nani. Right, IPR Nani is a mascot which helps to understand the basic utility of IPR, how to file up with IPR, all these things they can be brought down with this, or IP Nani is now there. Right, World IP Day has been celebrated on 26th April, World IP Day. Then GI tag, one of the important intellectual property initiative taken up. Certain GI tags have been provided this year. That has been provided to Alfonso, right, and the Palghar and the Sindhudurg of Palghar, Thane specifically have been provided to Ratnagiri, Alfonso. Right. Then in Bihar it has been provided to Shahi Lichi. Which is Muzaffarpur based. Right. Then Chau mask of Purulia, the wooden mask of Kushmandi, the Pattachitra and Dokras of Bengal, and Madhur Kathi. These all the wood based artifacts, they have been provided GI tags also this year. And in Madhya Pradesh, GI tag is also been provided to Kadaknath. Right, it is a variety of wild chicken which is found in India, in Madhya Pradesh, Kadaknath, and specifically Jhabua, Alirajpur, Dhar district of MP. Right, over there it is also termed as Kali Masi, right, Kadaknath. Right, apart from this, other GI tags have also been earlier, they have been provided in the box. If you look up to Darjeeling tea, Mahabaleshwar strawberry, blue pottery of Jaipur, Banarasi saris, Tirupati laddus have also been given. Apart from this, Chanderi saris of Madhya Pradesh have also been given GI tags. So name of it and which of the following have been provided GI tags. This can be a factual information. Next, 20th, if we look up to 19th, polar research in Arctic. India is setting up with another observatory in the Arctic region. Earlier we had two observatories in the Antarctic region. These two observatories are Maitri and Bharti, right? And Himadri station is also there in the Arctic region, that is near Norway. Now, away from Norway, we are also coming up with this observatory which is INDARC, right? So, INDARC, Maitri, Bharti and Himadri, these are four stations, INDARC and Himadri in north, Maitri and Bharti in the south, that is placed. Deep Ocean Mission of Government of India or initiative is being taken up under the initiatives of International Seabed Authority. International Seabed Authority is an international consortium of the countries where territorial limits are being provided or authorities are being provided in the open oceans away from the territorial limits to explore the seabed. Seabed exploration is important to harvest polymetallic nodules. These polymetallic nodules are the sources of different types of the metals, specifically nickel, copper, cobalt, lead, molybdenum, cadmium, vanadium and titanium. Please mark these metals. If we look up to a simple PT based question, which of the following metals can be harvested from polymetallic nodules? What are polymetallic nodules? Who controls the exploration of polymetallic nodules? Then International Seabed Authority. Right? These are certain facts that can be important out of this particular issue also. Then Chai Sahay app. Right? ये चाय से चर्चा नहीं है, ये अब चाय को इम्प्रूव करने का है. पहले चाय अच्छे से बनेगी तब तो फिर चर्चा होगी. Right? So it has been started by the National Tea Board or the Indian Tea Board, Chai Sahay app. Then miscellaneous technologies, quickly we look up to. First one is glass fiber reinforced gypsum concrete. Glass fiber reinforced gypsum concrete, it utilizes glass fiber, it is lightest material and larger blocks can be created, which can be a 3 foot long or 3 meter long blocks, which can be created by compression of the glass fibers. They can be lighter, and now such type of the materials they have been developed by IIT Madras and can be used as a building material in Kerala, right? Because they want those houses which can be more stress resistant houses or disaster resistant houses. So it has been inducted in Kerala to introduce glass fiber reinforced gypsum concrete, right? The term can be important to this. What do you understand by the glass fiber reinforced concrete, right? Then next one, IROV tuna. IROV tuna, it is an underwater robotic drone which is useful for submarine navigation also, submarine monitoring also. It will have advanced camera where it can look up to submarine environments also, right? It is equipped with variety of functions like ship hulls, undersea cables, fish arm, dams, port structure and bridge foundations, right? It can help in to take pictures also in submarine areas. That's why this is there, which is the name is tuna, right? IROV tuna. Then Nobel Prizes, just go through with the name of these. Stephen Hawking was known or was into news also. Just discoveries of this can be important. C.V. Raman was also into news. Li-Fi we have discussed earlier. Then we have this veterite. Veterite is one material which is present over the leaves of subpolar or sub-temperate plants, right? Which may be the coniferous plants. Over the leaves of these coniferous plants, this material veterite is present. Though it is present in a very small layer and a very small quantity, but this material is present as a silvery white crust, right? Which is present in the alpine plants. That's why this veterite is important, right? It is formed of calcium carbonate and calcites, etc. It is formed temporarily and then converted into calcium carbonate like substances. That's why. Then impact based forecasting approach. IMD has started the impact based forecasting approach to assess the rise of water level in the rivers and reservoir by rain. Train 18, which was into news, it is one of the fastest train which is traveling right now between Delhi and Banaras, right? Kya naam hai uska? Vande Bharat. This is an engine-less train which is developed over new technologies and was developed in 18 months in India. That's why it is important. Can reach up to 160 kilometers per hour at the peak speeds, right? Then other scientific experiments or achievements. World's thinnest material with novel technique was developed. This thinnest material was developed using magnesium diboride, that you can mark. Then faster diagnostic test for tuberculosis. For TB, there are diagnostic tests which are based on aptamer link immobilized sorbent assay, ELISA. Earlier we had ELISA. ELISA was banned in RNTCP. Now we have ELISA, right? Aptamer link, these are certain more polymers which have been created using which the bacteria can be trapped and faster methods of diagnosis can be designed. Electrochemical sensors, these are certain tools which are used. right? Then green technique can address plaster of Paris pollution. A new technique has been developed by National Chemical Laboratory, CSIR, NCL, which converts the waste material into useful products like ammonium sulfate and calcium bicarbonates. That you can mark. Then Sikkim gets the first real-time landslide warning system. That can be important. Flowering mustard, developed by TERI, Terry School of Advanced Studies, which is an early flowering transgenic variety of mustard. If it is early flowering, then obviously productivity can be improved also. Right. Then dry sorbent injection, DSI. It is one of a kind which can help to lower down the sulfur dioxide pollution from the coal-based power plants. Right. So dry sorbent, DSI, which can be important. SARAS. SARAS is indigenously developed transport system, which is a 14-seater transport aircraft which can be used and has been developed by National Aeronautics Laboratory, NAL. Right, it is a 14-seater passenger aircraft and it can be upgraded to a 19-seater aircraft also, which would be SARAS 2 also. Right. So SARAS 1 and SARAS 2, which is mass production of which is to be inducted. Then silver copper telluride. Silver copper telluride is a new alloy which is being developed. Using this alloy, we can have higher electrical conductivity with very low thermal conductivity. That means the resultant heat of the conductors can be extracted and converted into electricity using this, which is silver copper telluride. Higher electrical conductivity but low thermal conductivity, right? And a new element developed with magnetic properties, which is ruthenium, right? These are certain things. Last but not the least, just go through with certain topics that you can mark as important topics in alternative technologies. One is methanol as cooking oil. Initiation taken up by Niti Aayog. That can be important. Gas hydrates or flammable ice. Gas hydrates are those which are parts of natural gas or CNG placed below water resources, right, or below water surface, where gas and water mix up to create a hydrate or a solidified hydrate. India has been taken up as the second largest reservoir of these gas hydrates. We do not have technology for that, but that has been important resource for energy. Then the third one is the repurposed used cooking oil, RUCO. RUCO is something which has been taken up as the reused oil, right? Once oil is being utilized for frying or deep frying, the reuse of it is dangerous because it increases the amount of trans fats in the oil or saturated fatty acids in the oil. So once if it is being done at a mass scale, like there are many restaurants which are going for deep frying constantly, that may be McDonald's and all these. So once they have used the oil, post that the cooling of the oil, it must not be reused because it will have health hazards. So reuse of it is being started where 25% is to 75% aircraft turbine fuel and RUCO. It can be mixed and it can be used in the aircraft turbine. Right, it will help to cut down the cost also and develop the reutility of this cooking oil, which is reusable. That is RUCO. Then is hydrogen CNG, HCNG. Hydrogen CNG is more amount of hydrogen mixed with the natural gas. Natural gas or CNG is methane plus combination of carbon dioxide plus combination of hydrogen. Hydrogen can be near 5% in natural compressed natural gas, right? In hydrogen CNG, we can increase the content of this by 17 to 18%, right? If we'll increase the content of this hydrogen CNG by 17 to 18%, the combustion abilities of it can be improved. Plus, we would be able to supplement this hydrogen also. So, the demand can be met also, second thing. Third, the carbon monoxide pollution can be reduced by 50% if we'll increase the hydrogen content. Because by burning CNG, carbon monoxide pollution is increasing, it would be more cleaner, right? Also, we would be able to cut down the cost by 10 to 15%. over CNG by mixing hydrogen. That's why this HCNG has been taken up as the futuristic thing. Then Bengaluru maps its solar wealth. Bengaluru has started this LIDAR based tool where it will be assessing where in the residential areas can we place the solar cells, or what is the utility of the residential colonies in placing up of or harvesting the solar energy based on solar panels. For that, this has been started based on LIDAR. LIDAR is a tool which goes for light based spectrometry, right? Light detection and ranging. The resultant reflecting light from the surface is being absorbed and monitored for various surfacial characteristics. So based on this, the amount of light received and the amount of light reflecting from a particular surface. So what would be the utility, where we can place the solar panels, where we cannot, or where it will disturb the nearby conditions, where it will not disturb. All these things can be assessed. That is for Bengaluru's solar wealth map. Then just go through with the text of this Global Center for Nuclear Energy Partnership. It was in news. Apsara U reactor, Apsara upgraded reactor. Apsara reactor was turned down in 2009 owing to the reason because it was a CANDU design or Canada uranium design reactor, which was utilizing natural uranium and was producing the warhead plutonium. Under the initiatives taken by the government of India in 2008, we have committed to not producing warhead based plutonium for further utilities of civilian nuclear energy liabilities, or for nuclear based technologies which can be used for civilian purposes. So post that, the major reactors which were producing plutonium, they have been shut down. So it was permanently shut down. Apsara was permanently shut down in 2009. In 2018, we have recommissioned Apsara upgraded, which utilizes low grade or low enriched uranium, does not produces warhead plutonium, produces depleted plutonium, also produces other nuclear intermediates which can be used in nuclear medicine, right? And now it would be important because it would harness 50% of the total radionucleotides which are utilized in India. So Apsara upgraded can be important for us, right? Related to the nuclear energy itself, we have the experimental advanced superconducting tokamak EAST, right? EAST is a nuclear fission based experiment which has been developed, rather nuclear fusion based experiment which has been developed in China, right? One is ITER, International Thermo-Fusion Experimental Reactor, which is placed in USA, in which 8 countries are participating, of which India is also participator in that, right? ITER, which is based on a design which is tokamak design. Tokamak design is fusion of the lithium using a dome which is created by electromagnetic and electromagnetic interferences and lasers, right? That is tokamak design. Using that tokamak design, China has also started an experiment in the East. That's why the name is East. That is experimenting superconducing reactor or superconducing tokamak, right? Based on the same design, China is also looking on to fusion reactors. We have fission reactors, we have fusion reactors. The fusion reactors are experimental reactors. So one in USA, one in China, right? Then the Hyperloop passenger. Hyperloops are those type of the transport tools which are dependent on magnetic levitation, where we do not have the direct movement of a particular passenger vehicle. Rather, we have a closed vacuum tube. In that closed vacuum tube, using electromagnetic interferences, the object is first lifted. This is a two-way levitation. It is first lifted and then it runs, right? So it is magnetic levitation, two-way magnetic levitation. Based on this tool, the object can move in closed loops, which becomes the hyperloops, and the achievable velocities can be near 1200 kilometers per hour, right? So this could be very fast tool which can be developed, and the first hyperloop capsule has been unveiled recently. That's why it is important. Apart from this, hyperloop is to be developed in India also, that is between Mumbai and Pune, right? Another one would also come up in Andhra Pradesh. Then the thermal batteries can also be important. Thermal batteries is a particular tool or technology where the resultant temperature difference between water or between two different solvents can act as a source of electricity generation. Such type of the batteries, they are termed as thermal batteries. The term or the basic concept of these batteries can be important. चलो कुछ रह गया? पेज नंबर 1 तो अच्छा रह गया अभी. हाँ, डेफिनेशन ऑफ किलोग्राम इज चेंज्ड. उसमें क्या पढ़ोगे अब? तो वो चेंज हो गया. See, earlier the basic thing was, it was based on a vanadium block. It was kept under many covers so that not even a dust particulate could come up, and we used to weigh 1 kg using that block only, right? Now it is based on Planck's constant. Now the dependence on that is now been removed, and now it is based on the Planck's constant. So the new kg is 1 Planck kg, right, or dependent on the resultant units of the Planck's constant, right? That's why. And plus other things have also been taken. So it is international standard has now been changed, right? That was introduced. Apart from this, though it is much recent, Mission Shakti, which has been taken up as the satellite destruction mission of ISRO, that can be taken up, right? All these things can be important. For science and technology, just remember the terms are more important. That's why we have focused more on terms. The name of the term, the explanation of the term. The one variety of question is this. Second variety of the question is the agencies which are required, which we have spoken of in current affairs, right? These two things at least you go through, and revision is utter important, right? Revise things as much as you can. If you're not able to understand, you can write into me also. You can, you guys have the number, right? You don't have number, once we will go offline, I'll give you the number, right? So